At the end of the Ice Age, I accumulated tens of billions of supplies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401 Xingqian Legion. Until noon, Crossing Cheyenne brought a group of his men to Zhujia town. Its speed is so slow that Zhang Yi suspects that they are not very convenient in terms of transportation. But since he was acting on his own territory, he had nothing to fear. Zhang Yi called Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu, with Hua, ready to go out. As for Liang Yu, she is still immersed in her own world and has not escaped. However, her state has become very strange. She no longer complained to anyone, but stayed alone in the room every day, holding a tang knife and thinking quietly. Zhang Yi didn't know whether her state was good or bad. He didn't want to disturb her for the time being, so he didn't ask her to act together. A group of people took a snowmobile and set off towards the opposite bank of the river cautiously. At this time, Crossing Cheyenne had brought dozens of people to Zhujia town. As Zhang Yi expected, their means of transportation were relatively simple. It turned out to be all dog sleds. It's no wonder that you can't expect a group of steel workers to modify their vehicles, and they don't have as much fuel as Yangsheng Base and Chaoyu Base. However, the dogs they raise are large in size. Dogs that can survive the end of the world are very resistant to cold, and the larger they are, the easier it is to feed them. The dogs raised by workers are not delicate, and they are good at fighting or pulling sleds. Dogs are omnivores, they can eat any food, and they are easier to feed. And no matter who it is impossible to ignore the giant silver grey dog that is as big as a house at the front of the dog group. There is a cute little girl sitting on its back, humming a familiar nursery rhyme in the wind. Crossing Cheyenne didn't wear a combat uniform. He was still wearing the grey-blue workman's uniform, and he didn't even wear a cotton coat. But no matter how severe the cold weather was, he couldn't make him frown or shrink back. His short and lean body seemed to be made of steel, and his whole body was full of tendons. Of course, the other workers around were pretty much the same. Years of working in steel mills made them look like they were made of iron. No one wants to fight against such a steely team. Standing in the cold wind, Crossing Cheyenne rolled up his sleeves and glanced at the Patek Philippe on his wrist. He snatched this watch from the owner of the dog factory, and it can keep running in extremely cold temperatures. It is said that the price is as high as more than 1,000 million. Although money is meaningless now, Crossing Cheyenne likes such luxuries. Because before the end of the world, he couldn't afford this kind of thing in his life, so he likes this kind of thing that can bring him satisfaction. Zhang Yi is so slow. Crossing Cheyenne complained, then carefully wiped the frost on the surface and carefully stuffed it into his sleeve. At this time, several workers came over and said to Crossing Cheyenne, "Boss, I have searched around here. There are still some residents alive." Crossing Cheyenne asked, what is their relationship with Zhang Yi? The worker said, it doesn't seem to matter, but when Zhang Yi is mentioned, they are quite scared. Crossing Cheyenne thought for a while and said, this is also reasonable. If these people were under Zhang Yi's cover, he would not be able to lure us here. Forget it, just ignore them. At this time, ambiguous smiles appeared on the faces of several workers. Boss, he. Seeing their strange smiles, Crossing Cheyenne couldn't help raising his eyebrows. What do you mean? The workers rubbed their hands together. There's a lot of women in this town, and they're all younger. We thought thousands of workers are still alive at the Qingpu steel plant. 99.9% of them are men, and there are only a few women who work in clerical and logistical jobs, and they have already been divided up by the managers. The remaining thousands of men also hope to have women of their own. However, in the outskirts of the Qingpu steel plant, the surrounding area is sparsely populated, and few living women have been found for a long time. It's no wonder they're so hard on themselves. The corners of Crossing Cheyenne's mouth twitched, and after thinking for a while, he said, I'll discuss it with Zhang Yi when Zhang Yi comes. After all, it's in his territory, so I have to give him some face. Speaking of this, he said again, of course, I have already spoken in person, and he also wants to give me face. The surrounding workers nodded excitedly. That is required. The boss is mighty. Not long after, the sound of an engine was heard in the distance. Zhang Yi brought people over in a snowmobile. Crossing Shian's eyes also became sharper. With the 3 points near at the corner of his mouth, he stood in the middle of the road with his arms crossed, staring straight ahead. The collar was constantly shaking by the cold wind, but it couldn't shake his figure. Zhang Yi stopped the car, opened the door cautiously and walked down. The atmosphere between the two parties was a little tense. Although the cooperation was negotiated, neither of them could fully trust each other. I'm afraid that, if there is anything wrong, they will be annihilated on the spot. The two haven't seen each other for almost 10 years. Seeing each other again, both of them have changed a lot. Zhang Yi was much calmer than before. His eyes were less sunny and innocent, and more cold and ruthless. As soon as he came out, Crossing Shian and the workers present felt like they were facing a formidable enemy. Zhang Yi didn't deliberately do anything. It's just that he has killed too many people, and the murderous aura has penetrated into his bones. As long as he is serious, this murderous aura will escape from his every movement and every look. This is a ruthless character. Everyone at King Pu base thought so. Even Crossing Shian, who became the leader of the King Pu base, did not dare to belittle Zhang Yi in front of him. However, he had to maintain his majesty, so the corners of his mouth were still crooked in disdain. While they were looking at Zhang Yi was also looking at them. Crossing Shian has also changed a lot from the beginning. His body is stronger, and he can still wear ordinary work clothes in the ice and snow. It is obvious that his ability has a strong blessing on his body. The workers around are all fierce, and they don't seem to be messed with. He couldn't help but think of Crossing Shian's introduction in the materials of Zishan base. His ability is very special. It seems to be a group buff ability, which can greatly increase himself and everyone around him. Of course, that huge mutant dog is also hard to ignore. After Huahua appeared, the magic dog and Huahua quickly stared at each other and let out dangerous whimpers. Their sound spoiled the atmosphere of the scene. Zhao Lingling, the girl on the back of the magic dog, quickly touched its head. Lel, be good, don't whine. After being appeased by Zhao Lingling, the magic dog narrowed its eyes and obediently stopped whining. And Huahua didn't bother to pay attention to it. She stood quietly beside Zhang Yi's legs, but her eyes were still sharp. Ha ha ha, long time no see, old classmate. Crossing Shian suddenly laughed. Unexpectedly, we haven't seen each other for more than 10 years, and we meet again in this kind of environment. Zhang Yi also said with a smile, yeah, I thought how could I have a good drink at a class reunion? But judging by your current appearance, you are doing very well. You have already become a big shot in Xianhei City. Zhang Yi's flattery made Crossing Shian very useful, because Zhang Yi saw the corners of his mouth slightly raised. It's easy to say, you are not bad now. Although you don't manage as big a territory as I do, you can still be regarded as the #1 person in Xianhei City. Crossing Shian sighed. Who would have imagined that I, who was insignificant in school back then, would have today? It seems to be sighing, but it is actually showing off. Zhang Yi secretly smiled in his heart, but he didn't expose it. He knew what people like Crossing Shian cared about. What Crossing Shian wants is compliments and admiration from others, so as to make up for his low self-esteem and inconspicuousness in the previous decades. Chapter 402 Yang Min-039, S ability. According to the agreement between the two parties, Zhang Yi took out 1/3 of the food and handed it over to Crossing Shian as a deposit. Crossing Shian brought enough people and enough sleds to pull all the food back. Looking at the food he got without a single soldier, Crossing Shian was very happy. And Zhang Yi also appropriately showed a faint pain, which made Crossing Shian feel happy. Zhang Yi, don't feel bad about these foods. It's definitely worth it to cooperate with our green base. Crossing Shian said to Zhang Yi with a smile. The corners of Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slightly. He squinted his eyes and said this to Crossing Shian. I don't know if you still remember, when I was in junior high school, I fought with a few people from the next class. Crossing Shian recalled it for a while, nodded and said, there is indeed such a thing. It seems that some gangsters from the next class chased Fan Xingcan from our class, but Fan Xingcan has always had a crush on you. Zhang Yi said, back then, one of the 5 of them beat me. I knew I couldn't beat them, so I caught that brat and knocked out 3 of his teeth. Zhang Yi stretched out his index finger and pointed at Crossing Shan. His gaze gradually became fierce. I gave you food this time. I hope you can abide by our agreement. But if you betray me, even if you all come to attack at that time, I would rather ignore the other families and drag you into the water with all my might. When the time comes, let's see if your King Poo base can survive in Xianhe City. Crossing Shan was a little terrified by Zhang Yi's words and subconsciously swallowed his saliva. Zhang Yi, you underestimate me, don't you? Let me tell you, Crossing Shan came out to rely on two words: loyalty. HMPH, just wait and see then. Zhang Yi smiled. Of course that would be the best. I don't want our old classmates' blood to splash on the streets. Crossing Shan asked his people to bring the food and left Zujia town. Before leaving, he looked back at Zhang Yi vigilantly from time to time. He even forgot to ask if he could bring some women from Zujia town home. Zhang Yi waited until they left and called Uncle Yu and others back to the shelter. Let's go. Get ready to fight. Uncle Yu said, I hope our food will not be wasted. Otherwise, we will lose our wife and lose our army. Zhang Yi said disapprovingly. The materials given to them are all canned food confiscated from the Zishan base, and those things are not delicious. As long as there is peace in the future, depending on the abilities of Fatty Zhu and me, we can have as many of these things as we want. Don't be sorry. Uncle Yu laughed and said, I'm just worried that the food will be fed to the white-eyed wolf. If they turn their backs, we will suffer a lot. It will definitely make people very uncomfortable if someone eats what you gave and hits you in turn. No, they probably wouldn't dare. Zhang Yi's tone was soft, but revealing a kind of confidence. Although more than 10 years have passed, Crossing Weinan's personality hasn't changed much. A person's nature is difficult to change. Going from an unknown person to a leader who suddenly possesses powerful abilities and great power does not give him the ability and wisdom to be a commander. So his style of doing things is very conservative, and he dare not easily start a war with others. He is extremely afraid of losing everything he has. There is more than enough defense, but not enough offense. I have already let him taste the sweetness. Compared with taking risks to fight with us, he will choose to do nothing and gain the most from the game. In fact, most ordinary people have such a mentality. Even Zhang Yi is no exception. He put himself in the situation and thought that if he was in Crossing Shan's position, he would happily take the food and leave without knowing the opponent's strength. After all, 10 birds in the forest are not as good as 1 bird in the hand. Of course, the possibility of their betrayal cannot be completely ruled out. In short, we just need to be prepared for all possibilities. Zhang Yi and his party returned to the shelter. As soon as they entered the living room, everyone could smell the familiar aroma of food. It's just that today, the smell is even stronger, making everyone feel refreshed after smelling it. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed, and he guessed who was cooking. When I came to the island kitchen, I saw Yang Mi, who had recovered and was cooking. The women next to her were all surrounding her with intoxicated faces, already fascinated by the smell of the food. Seeing Zhang Yi came back, Yang Mi's eyes lit up, and she said happily, Zhang Yi, I have mastered the skills of using supernatural powers. Come and taste my cooking. Zhang Yi's eyes flickered, and he said with a smile, oh, you've become proficient in using it so quickly. It's really you. He changed his clothes unhurriedly, and then walked towards the island kitchen. Zhang Yi smiled and asked everyone, it seems that you have all tasted Master Yang's cuisine. Luke Karen nodded frantically, yes, big brother, the food made by Sister Yang is delicious, and it seems to have a magical power. After eating, people will be energetic. Zhang Yi thought to himself, it seems that the dishes made by her abilities are not only effective for aliens, but also for ordinary people. It's quite convenient, because eating can only restore strength, but it's so hard to restore energy. At the kitchen table, Zhang Yi saw Liang Yu. Her complexion is very good at this time, and her energy is more abundant than before. Zhang Yi was very curious, and asked Yang Mi, Teacher Liang doesn't emo anymore after eating your food. Yang Mi waved the cooking spoon in her hand triumphantly. Of course. After eating the food I made, it refreshes your mind and makes you feel refreshed. It can even eliminate the negative state of the body. Zhang Yi was startled. Good guy. This is equivalent to bringing corruption potion and mercury ribbon. Yang Mi picked up a bowl of chestnut porridge and handed it to Zhang Yi full of expectation. "Zhang Yi, come and try it too." Looking at Yang Mi's clear eyes, Zhang Yi was too embarrassed to reject her in front of everyone. He took it with a smile, then reached out and hugged Huahua aside. "It smells delicious. It must be delicious." While talking, Zhang Yi quietly took a mouthful with a spoon and handed it to its mouth. Huahua sniffed, and her small eyes suddenly became wise, and she ate it. Seeing this, Zhang Yi felt relieved and took a sip. After entering the chestnut porridge, he immediately felt a strange energy pouring into his body. All the fatigue was swept away, and the whole person was refreshed. "I can't wait to lie on the ground and do 100 push-ups. Nice one." Zhang Yi couldn't help admiring. Then, Huahua pounced on to grab the bowl. Yang Mi happily filled a bowl for Huahua. Yang Mi awakened her supernatural ability, although it was a support type, but the effect was remarkable, and everyone was more happy. After all, the battle is imminent, and it is a good thing to have more help. Even Zhao Ke and Lu Karen were very greedy, and they also hoped that Zhang Yi could use up the remaining ice soul as soon as possible. Zhang Yi perfunctory them, ready to wait and see for a while. Only Yang Xingxin dismissed the so-called Bing Po. She thinks her brain is the best ability. On the contrary, if after using Bing Po, she gets some abilities similar to cooking, it will only add unnecessary burden to her. Everyone had tasted the food made by Yang Mi, and they all expressed their admiration for her ability. At first Zhang Yi just tasted it briefly, but later he didn't find anything unusual, so he was completely relieved. Then he went to ask Yang Mi for specific information about her abilities. Yang Mi has no reservations about Zhang Yi. In order to prove her role, she told Zhang Yi about her abilities in detail. Since she has just awakened the ability, the amount she can enchant food with is limited each time. Probably only 5 servings can be prepared at one time. The advantage is that it can quickly restore the state of a person, including the ability of a different person. After Zhang Yi finished listening, he said to Yang Mi, "Can the food you make with supernatural powers be stored? What I mean is, will its effects fade over time?" Yang Mi heard this and said with some doubts, I haven't tried it, but I have tried it, and it is true that the food made just now works better." Zhang Yi waved his hand. "It's not important. Anyway, from today on, you should prepare a lot of this kind of food. It's best to have something convenient, such as an energy bar. As for the storage problem, I will solve it. As long as the food made by Yang Mi is put into the different space, there is no need to worry about the loss of efficacy. In this way, Zhang Yi can obtain a large amount of military rations through this method. In the future, aliens will definitely become the mainstream force on the battlefield. And this kind of military ration will also become a strategic material. Chapter 403. The battle is about to start. According to the information provided by Zhao and Crossing Shan, several major forces will unite to attack Zhang Yi's shelter 3 days later. This war was nominally to avenge the members of the 2 bases who were killed by Zhang Yi. In fact, everyone knows that this is just a war to carve up territory and clear spheres of influence. It's just that the 4 families have their own ghosts, and each family hopes to maximize their own interests. However, under the promotion of various forces, this battle is bound to start. 3 days later, the 4 major forces left some armed forces to defend their headquarters, while the rest of the armed forces, led by their leaders, marched towards Yangman next to the Lujiang River. The 4 parties agreed that the time to launch the attack was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because they have no way of knowing the scene inside the ice and snow barrier. Even if you plan to attack at night, you will fall into the passive position of fighting in a different place, and you will be easily ambushed by traps. Anyway, they have an absolute advantage in terms of military strength, so launching an attack from the front is the best choice. On the side of Yangsheng base, the team dispatched is the most powerful, because they sent 15 vehicles at one time, including engineering vehicles for attacking fortifications, and modified armored vehicles. Looking at the entire Xianhe city, the only one that can have this kind of fleet is the Yangsheng base. On the 3rd armored vehicle, Zhao Hanglian, the leader of the Yangsheng base, sat there in a red combat uniform, with eyes as sharp as a falcon. Her ability is very special, and she named it Purgatory Furnace. Not only can the strength of her body be strengthened through flames, but also everything can be melted by releasing high temperature flames. In terms of the classification of supernatural powers, she has both strengthening and releasing abilities, and her combat ability is very strong. It is precisely because the characteristics of the flame are too obvious, so her combat uniform is also crimson. After all, to her, no matter where she is so eye-catching, there is no need to hide herself. The convoy moved unhurriedly towards Young Manor. Zhao Hanglian picked up the communication device and contacted the leaders of the other 3 major forces one by one, asking them to arrive near Young Manor according to the agreed time. After getting an affirmative answer, I was relieved. But Zhuge Qingting, Zhao Hanglian's deputy, kept looking worried. When we set off in the morning, a flagpole suddenly fell down at the door. He opened his mouth to speak. Zhao Hanglian looked at him and said with a sneer, "You're quite superstitious." "No, it's not a superstition." Zhuge Qingting shook his head. "I'm just a little worried, and that worry is getting stronger now. Such a large-scale war is the first time since the end of the world. We have never assembled so many troops in the past to fight a war that could affect the fate of the Yangsheng base. If we lose this battle, I dare not think about the consequences." Zhuge Qingting only thought about this sentence in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it in front of Zhao Hanglian. Without the slightest hesitation, Zhao Hanglian said in an unquestionable tone, "We will definitely win." The Zishan base was destroyed. The most critical factor was the missile from the Jiangnan region. It was not Zhang Yi. A small shelter. There are less than 10 people. Even if they are all aliens, so what? What's more, this time our 4 families act together, and it's easy to kill them. Zhao Hanglian said calmly, "If I wasn't worried about the danger of making a rash move, I wouldn't even need to call the other 3 companies. Don't worry, there is no possibility of any accidents this time. There is no force in Xianhai City that can withstand the attacks of our 4 families at the same time." Zhao Hanglian was cautious enough. Because she doesn't know the true strength of Zhang Yi and others, she would rather give up part of her interests and call the 4 major forces to join forces. Zhuge Qingting was silent for a moment, but still said, "I'm afraid the other companies are unreliable." Zhao Hanglian suddenly laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha ha. Of course they are unreliable. Those guys are all bloodthirsty scum. As long as they smell blood, they will rush to them." She restrained her smile. Her eyes were as sharp as a knife. "That's why they are reliable. At least this battle is trustworthy. Because Zhang Yi is a piece of fat, they will scramble to get the fattest bite. We are all the same. We are all happy to bully the weak. Especially fat and weak prey, who can refuse its temptation." Zhao Hanglian didn't even feel that there were any uncertainties in this operation. Even the sturdy shelter that Zhang Yi was proud of, she brought professionals like Wu Huairen to dismantle it. As Zhang Yi said, although the Zishan base was destroyed by them, no one knows how they did it. Therefore, almost everyone believes that Zhang Yi's team did not play a key role in this incident. It was just a fluke, and I picked up a big bargain. And Zhao Hanglian, Wei Dinghe and others, with this kind of thinking in mind, treated him like a fat sheep. Zhuge Qingting nodded. "I think so too. After all, from the perspective of strength, we have no possibility of failure." Zhao Hanglian patted him on the shoulder. You are just too nervous. After we win, let's have a good drink, and then you will understand the joy of victory." A smile appeared on Zhuge Qingting's face. "That's what you said. Probably because I'm too nervous." Braving the wind and snow, the convoy continued to drive in the direction of Young Manor. On the other side, Zhang Yi learned early that the time they agreed to attack was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But for the sake of safety, everyone got up early in the morning to prepare for this big battle. The Fengshu geography of Young Manor is surrounded by mountains and rivers. The 2 short mountains behind are connected like a chair of a grand master, and the Lujiang River is in front of it. Therefore, if you want to attack Young Manor, the rear is not convenient at all, and you can only pass through the vast area in front. Zhang Yi arranged for everyone to defend at the first line of defense. Liang Yu, Uncle Liu, Fatty Zhu and Hua Hua were all sent to the front line, and he himself stayed in the shelter. The reason given by Zhang Yi is, "I'm not a martial artist, and close combat is not my strong point." but using the dimensional gate and sniper support in the rear can better play my strengths. Although Zhang Yi has never claimed to be the boss of the sanctuary, in fact he is the leader of everyone. Everyone must obey his orders. Even Fatty Zhu, who is most afraid of death, has to go to the front line to fight honestly. The war was approaching, and Liang Yu's mental state was obviously different from the previous few days. She didn't say much that day, but she kept holding the tang knife tightly in her hand, and an uncontrollable killing intent began to permeate her eyes. She always thought that her student died at the hands of Yang Sheng base. Therefore, she is extremely eager to find a suitable opportunity to kill more people in Yang Sheng base and avenge the students. When she was about to turn around and leave, Zhang Yi stopped her from behind. Liang Yu, I will lend you this item for the time being. Liang Yu turned around, and Zhang Yi threw a tang knife over. As soon as Liang Yu got started, excitement flashed across her eyes, because that knife was her most beloved sword. Looming. Remember to return it to me after this battle is over. Zhang Yi said lightly. He will not join the ranks of the first line fighters, so it is more effective to leave the sword to Liang Yu. The expression on Liang Yu's face froze immediately, and she stomped her feet angrily. Got it. Chapter 404 Best Sniping Spot. After dismissing a few frontline personnel, Zhang Yi turned around and began to assign tasks to several logistics personnel. It was just words repeated many times, and he emphasized it again before the battle. Killer is ready to treat the wounded. Yang Mi, you should take a good rest, make as much supernatural food as possible, and restore our supernatural powers for us. Yang Mi and Zhao Ke nodded seriously. Zhang Yi looked at Jiang Xingxin and Lu Karen. Xingxin, you will be in control of all the firepower devices on the front line. We have a lot of firepower output points, and ordinary people cannot control them at the same time. And among those people, there may be our helpers, at least they are neutral forces. You need to shoot according to my order. The corner of Yang Xingxin's mouth couldn't stop smiling, and her face was flushed from being too excited. She covered her red face with her hands and said, I can finally kill the enemy with my own hands. What a wonderful battle. Brother Zhang Yi, Xingxin will be your best helper. As for Lu Karen, there is no mission for her for the time being, because her main ability is to debug weapons and equipment for everyone before the battle, and to check the entire firepower system. Zhang Yi asked her to stay with Yang Xingxin, and would make other arrangements for her if necessary. After assigning work, Zhang Yi said to them, okay, let's go back to our respective posts now. The enemy may come over at any time. Don't be too nervous. This battle may end soon, or it may be very long. If the strings are stretched too tightly, problems will easily occur. After speaking, Zhang Yi turned around and walked up to the second floor of the shelter alone. As before, all the important things on the first and second floors were put away by Zhang Yi. He was prepared for the surface of the shelter to be compromised, even if the possibility of this did not exceed 5%. The women looked at Zhang Yi's back as he climbed the stairs alone, and they were eager to follow him and fight with him. But they also knew that Zhang Yi didn't like others acting against the plan, so everyone returned to their positions and began to wait for the enemy's arrival. Zhang Yi came to the second floor, but climbed up to the small attic above the second floor for the first time. The space here is not very large, only about 50 square meters, which is the area of a bathroom in the shelter. The meaning of its existence may be a study room, or a music room, or it may be just to climb high and look far away and take a look at the distant scenery. Zhang Yi came here only because it was the highest point of the shelter and he could see far away. And there are skylights all around the attic. With a wide viewpoint, there is no doubt that this is an excellent sniping spot for him. Zhang Yi walked to the window and looked into the distance through the floor-to-ceiling windows. After the battle with Zishan base, the front of the entire Young Manor was almost leveled, so the front is very open at this time. Not far away is the long Lujiang River, and on the opposite side there are snow houses one after another as Zujia town. Looking east and west, there is a large snow-white plain. There used to be buildings or forests there too. But after the end of the world, the blizzard destroyed everything around, and the snow was buried, creating an empty white area. This is perfect for a wave of charge. And because it is too open, it is also very suitable for sniping. Zhang Yi took out a tin box from a different space and silently took out a heavy sniper rifle from it. He unhurriedly set up the gun by the window and took out several boxes of sniper rifle bullets and put them beside him. Then he moved a chair so that he would not be affected by weak legs when he was sniping. After all, this battle may be fought for a long time, and he also needs to rest. When he was ready, he said, "ZOAI, open the window in front of you." The gate of dimension sealed the position in front of the window, preventing all possibility of shooting from outside. The next thing Zhang Yi has to do is to wait for the enemy to appear in his sight. Zhang Yi is not a fighter. Even if he killed Ling Feng one-on-one back then, he firmly believed that he was not good at melee combat. Even with the ability to accelerate, and even after learning Kung Fu from Liang Yu for a while, he still instinctively resists hand-to-hand combat. Because that's not his forte. If a person wants to win all the time, one must bully the weak and fear the hard, and choose the right opponent. The second is to develop strengths and avoid weaknesses, and never touch your own shortcomings. Therefore, he will not go out to fight the enemy hand to hand. After devouring Ling Feng's supernatural energy, Zhang Yi's supernatural power has been greatly improved. In addition to the ability to gain divine power, other abilities have also been significantly improved. The first is the ability of precise shooting, allowing him to have an effective range of 3.5 kilometers and a maximum range of 5 kilometers under the condition of holding a heavy sniper. This means that within a distance of 5 kilometers, he can shoot and kill unsuspecting ordinary people. But within 3.5 kilometers, he can also shoot and kill soldiers who only wear ordinary body armor or bulletproof helmets. As for soldiers wearing special battle uniforms, they are a little harder to kill. But within 1500 meters, it can also achieve a one-hit kill. After all, the defense of ordinary soldiers' combat uniforms and captain-level combat uniforms is not on the same level. Enemies above the captain level are basically either protected, or they cannot be killed by firearms. He won't take it for granted. Those people were handed over to Liang Yu and others to deal with. Otherwise, why would you call Liang Yu Lang? The second is Zhang Yi's dimensional gate, which is now expanded to a larger area, and can withstand a higher energy load. These two aspects are already very huge improvements. In a sense it is simply terrifying. But if I meet Ling Feng again, there is no prerequisite preparation for the encounter. He still has a 50% chance of being killed by Ling Feng. This is where the weakness of ability lies. However, as long as I can maximize my strengths and avoid weaknesses, and maximize my abilities, I will become a nightmare for the enemy. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes slowly. Today, he has only two things to do. First, try to kill the opponent's ordinary fighters before starting the battle. Aliens are more difficult to kill, so you don't need to deliberately manage them. Ordinary soldiers shoot one by one, with the ability to lock and aim for precise shooting, and the bullets will not miss. If those ordinary soldiers die more, it will definitely affect the morale of the opponent. What's more, although they are ordinary soldiers, they are also very valuable armed forces of the major forces. Maybe the opponent gave up the battle early and chose to retreat when the soldiers suffered too much loss. It would be the best result for Zhang Yi if he could defeat others without fighting. Second, Zhang Yi must rely on the ability of the Gate of Dimension to help Liang Yu and Uncle Yu to defend to the maximum extent. There are only two things he has to do today. Once these two tasks are completed, he will decisively choose to abandon the first line of defense and let everyone return to the shelter. No matter what, he will never give anyone a chance to approach him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405 Snipe. On the side of the shelter, a group of people have been waiting for the arrival of the enemy since the morning, and they dare not neglect for a moment. Eat energy bars to fuel up when you're hungry, and the supernatural food that Yang Mi prepared for them would only be eaten after the war started. It was an important strategic material to supplement supernatural powers. Finally, when the time came to around 1 PM, Zhang Yi's tactical eyepiece caught a trace of movement on the snowfield. Attention everyone. The enemy has appeared. Zhang Yi said in the communication device. Everyone's eyes burst out with cautious gazes and then quickly prepared for battle. Especially Liang Yu almost couldn't hold back that fighting spirit. But Zhang Yi's next sentence was, the distance is still 5 kilometers away. Big guy. Although a little speechless, everyone did not dare to slack off and had to wait for the opponent's attack. And at this time, it was Zhang Yi's battle alone. On Zhang Yi's side, the battle is about to start. The first batch to come was the people from Chaoyu base. Compared with other forces, they have fewer scruples. After all, the most important supplies of Chaoyu base are seaports and ships. And these things, laymen who don't know how to do it, can't control them at all. So they brought their team here early, in order to seize the best attacking position. The 4 families are fighting on their own, and no one can order others. But whether it is Wei Dinghe or Zhao Hanglian, they are almost certain that their advantages are too great, and they can crush Zhang Yi simply by strength. So there is no need to deliberately pay attention to coordination and strategy when facing a small shelter. The convoy drove slowly from the snowfield. There are also more than a dozen modified cars, each of which is filled with soldiers from the Chaoyu base with live ammunition. Their bodies are white combat uniforms with the Wave logo on their chests. The car is also painted with white paint, and it is even difficult to find their traces without careful observation. When they arrived not far from Manor, they immediately saw the 20-meter high thick ice and snow barrier. Wei Dinghe said, it looks like the other companies haven't arrived yet. Just stop here. Take advantage of the favorable terrain first. Then our artillery can hit the front of the shelter. Deputy Chen Jingwen took a telescope and observed the ice and snow barrier through the window and couldn't help but let out a sneer. Using ice blocks for fortifications is a little clever, but it's embarrassing to use. How can this kind of thing withstand the attack of artillery fire? And the existence of this kind of thing will turn into an environmental advantage for you. They absolutely can't think of this. But Wei Dinghe didn't smile. Instead, he said calmly, first of all, you have to understand one thing. With such a small number of people, they can still build such a majestic fortress. It can be seen that there are powerful aliens among them. Chen Jingwen said with a smile, but no matter how powerful a foreigner is, they can't stop the joint attack of our 4 families. Wei Dinghe raised the corners of his mouth easily. He twisted his thick wrist and said with a smile, this is a crusade without any suspense, not even a war. However, I'm very interested in the people in that shelter. If they don't die by then, I can consider letting them work for me. Chen Jingwen said flatteringly, that will be their greatest honor. It is still relatively far from the location of Manor, and only a little shadow can be seen vaguely. The convoy slowed down and, instead of continuing on, stopped a few kilometers away. The vehicle is equipped with artillery, and they are going to launch a round of attack from a long distance first, blasting away the thick ice and snow defense line. So the vehicle stopped, and the soldiers prepared to aim the several artillery pieces on the vehicle in the direction of the defense line. But suddenly, the windshield of the car at the front of the convoy shattered. The driver's head was also broken at the same time. Instead of being penetrated, it's like a watermelon being smashed. Boom. It exploded immediately. Enemy attack. The soldier on the co-pilot lowered his head immediately and then informed everyone through the communication device. But only a second later, a bullet penetrated the front of the car in front of him, opening a big hole in his chest. The soldiers were still preparing to adjust the artillery, but they were taken aback by the sudden attack. In a car in the middle of the convoy, Wei Dinghe and Chen Jingwen in the car were still chatting, and they were a little surprised when they got the news of the enemy attack. The surrounding area is clearly a vast snowfield, and there is not even a place to hide. Where did the enemy come from? And according to intelligence, there were less than 10 people in that shelter. Now they dare to come out to ambush the elite troops of a base. What's the difference between that and dying? Although he didn't quite understand the current situation, Wei Dinghe immediately issued an order. Everyone be alert immediately. Find out the enemy. The soldiers at Chaoyu base are also professionally trained. Although it is not as good as the professional soldiers at Zishan base, there are many mercenaries, professional bodyguards and thugs. After getting the order, they loaded the bullets quickly and then relied on the body of the car as a cover while cautiously looking for the enemy hidden in the dark. Boom. A soldier next to the car was headshot again. A real headshot. What Zhang Yi used was an anti-equipment heavy sniper, which could be used to defeat armored vehicles. And when it hits someone, even if it's just a scratch, it will end in a burst. At this time, many soldiers got out of the car. They were preparing for an artillery attack on the defense line, but they did not guard against the enemy from 3 kilometers away. So for a while, they became living targets on the snowfield. Zhang Yi didn't dodge them in time, and they were all killed one by Zhang Yi. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 soldiers didn't have time to move. They were still standing where they were, and the upper half of their bodies turned into blood mist all over the sky. Large caliber anti-material sniper rifles are so violent. Human flesh and blood are more fragile than dirt. The soldiers at Choyu base are not professional soldiers. Most of them are just temporarily brought in and trained for a period of time. Facing this horrible way of death, his face turned pale with fright, and he even forgot to run away. And waiting for their ending is naturally one cold bullet after another. Soon, cloud after cloud of blood mist burst out on the pure white snowfield. This kind of death is very bloody, but it also has a strange beauty. The death of many soldiers caught Choyu base by surprise and was completely unprepared. Although the dead on the battlefield is a common occurrence, but they are not professional soldiers after all, let alone encounter long-range sniping by the enemy in the wilderness. It is precisely because there is insufficient information on Zhang Yi's ability that Choyu base fell into a panic. They still don't realize what kind of opponent they are facing. They just think that there are snipers. There is a sniper. Find him quickly and kill him. An officer shouted to everyone through the communicator. At the same time, there were also snipers at Choyu base holding sniper rifles, and the muzzles of the sniper rifles were pointed in Zhang Yi's direction. As veterans, they were able to confirm Zhang Yi's position through those few shots. However, their sights cannot see beyond 3.5 kilometers. There is only a vast expanse of white snow in sight. They were momentarily at a loss. Where did this bullet come from? A sniper murmured to himself in bewilderment. The next moment, his head and neck also made a colorful farewell. Every shot will take away a life without exception. And it's still under the condition that they are on guard. This finally made everyone in Choyu base feel that something was wrong. What's going on? Why can't I find where the sniper is? Looking at the power, it is definitely a heavy sniper. He can shoot continuously. He must be a stranger. That's right. Zhang Yi can offset the recoil of heavy sniper through space power. Otherwise, if this kind of gun is fired 3 times, the shoulders of ordinary people will be seriously injured. Zhang Yi continued to shoot silently without saying a word. Shooting distance is not an issue. Accuracy is also not an issue. As long as those soldiers exposed any part of their bodies, he would pull the trigger. The head is exposed, head on. The feet are exposed, beat the feet. At this temperature, as long as you wipe it, you will die. In the ice and snow, the gunshots never stopped. One soldier after another fell down one after another, and the death conditions were extremely miserable. Some people even hid behind the car, and even the people in the car were penetrated. And they didn't even find out where the enemy was from the beginning to the end. Faced with this situation, Wei Dinghei finally couldn't sit still. Take my people as targets. What an arrogant guy. Chapter 406 The Invisible Enemy. After Zhang Yi killed 15 soldiers in a row, suddenly white snow mist surged around the convoy. Then the snow covered the entire convoy, and the entire convoy disappeared from Zhang Yi's vision. Zhang Yi paused the movements in his hands. An alien from the ice and snow department? It seems to have similar abilities to Fatty Zhu. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he continued to stare at the tactical eyepiece. How long can you maintain this ability? It's you who are coming to attack me, so I don't believe you don't move. All he needs is for the other party to reveal a little flaw, that's all. In the middle of the convoy, Wei Dinghei activated the Ice and Snow Lord ability, summoning a blizzard to temporarily protect the convoy. But this is not a long-term solution, because they are still far away from Yonk Manor, and there are snowfields nearby, and no suitable bunker can be found. Maintaining the ability for a long time will consume his ability and affect subsequent battles. The top priority now is to find out the sniper lurking in the dark. Wei Dinghei gave the order. Why can't I find his location? He asked a little angrily. but no one can give him a reasonable explanation. There is no suitable sniper point on this kind of snowfield. And judging from the positions where more than a dozen soldiers died, it was a sniper attack from a high position. But the heights near them are nothing but sky, and not even a tree exists. Chen Jingwen said, I think there must be a very powerful alien sniper in Zhang Yi's team. He pointed to the direction of the shelter. The sniper's position should be in that direction, so these bullets were fired from the shelter. Wei Dinghei's pupils shrank sharply, but this place is still more than 3 kilometers away from the shelter. He fired more than a dozen bullets in one go, and it seems that he still has the strength to kill Arcadas. Through these information, both Wei Dinghei and Chen Jingwen came to a terrible conclusion. The strength of that sniper is extremely terrifying. Not only is the power of the ability powerful, but the reserve of ability in the body is also very considerable. So much so that he can willfully waste on ordinary soldiers. After only a moment, Wei Dinghei made a decisive decision. Let the convoy retreat immediately. Now that other forces have not arrived, we don't need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Just withdraw from his shooting range. Immediately, Wei Dinghei's order was conveyed to every soldier's ears. Everyone got back into the car immediately, and then one car after another began to retreat. Wei Dinghei maintained the snow and fog to block Zhang Yi's sight. But if a dozen cars want to turn around on the snow, it is destined to be a big move. Inevitably there will be vehicle exposure. Zhang Yi knew that they might make a retreat. So he waited until the opponent was about 3 kilometers away from the shelter before doing anything. The effective range of 500 meters is enough for his heavy sniper to penetrate armored vehicles. Not to mention this low-profile armored vehicle modified with a car. Boom. A bullet accurately hit the front wheel of a car. The tire was deflated, and the track hanging on it was also greatly affected, and the vehicle body immediately began to tilt. Zhang Yi calmly reloaded, and then fired again. The front and rear wheels of a car were shot through, making it completely unable to drive. The voice of the soldier inside the car became anxious. The car broke down. What to do? Don't leave us behind. Find a way to save us. Once we leave the snow fog, we will become living targets. They knew that it was a super long-range alien attacking secretly, so they were terrified in their hearts. This is even more terrifying than snipers. At least ordinary human snipers still have many restrictions and can be counter-killed. And this kind of confrontation, that they don't even have a chance to fight back, they can only be beaten passively, and they will die if they make a mistake, will only bring them endless fear. There were nearly 20 soldiers on a car, and it was impossible for Wei Dinghei to abandon them. He had no choice but to order, slow down and let the soldiers in that car move over. They do not have this ultra-long range means of attack. There are also powerful aliens in Zhao base, but before other forces arrive, Wei Dinghei cannot allow the important aliens under him to rush over and find Zhang Yi in the shelter to fight for his life. War is for profit, not for the battle of emotions. The convoy slowed down, but Wei Dinghei increased the coverage of the blizzard, preventing Zhang Yi from continuing to shoot. At such a long distance, the infrared function has no way to work. But for Zhang Yi, accurate shooting is the best. It's not impossible to shoot, but it's not impossible. After all, as long as his bullet hits once, it is basically hopeless. The convoy is driving in the wind and snow. In order to weaken the resistance of the wind and snow, it adopts a dense formation, and the distance between the vehicles is relatively dense. Although Zhang Yi's line of sight was covered, he could still judge the range they were in. And with the power of the heavy sniper in his hand, it is not difficult to penetrate that simple armor and kill the soldiers in the car. If you can hit the key parts of the vehicle, you can stop the car directly. So Zhang Yi simply aimed at the area covered by the wind and snow and started the blind sniper mode. Accurate shooting uses the performance of the sniper rifle itself, so it does not consume many abilities. With the power reserve in Zhang Yi's body today, this level of consumption is almost nothing. In addition, he asked Yang Mi to prepare a lot of supernatural food in advance, which made him even more unscrupulous. There is enough ammunition, even if you can only hit one shot in 10 shots, it is worthwhile. What he has to do is to weaken the vitality of the invading enemy to the greatest extent before the battle. Amidst the wind and snow, Zhao base nervously transferred soldiers. But the sharp screams of bullets came from the soldiers' ears again. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The shooting frequency of the sniper rifle is not high, but when you hear the sharp sound, you can feel its terrifying power. Boom. The back door of a car was shot, and a big hole was pierced through a 3mm steel plate. A soldier inside was rubbed on the thigh, and the blood flowed profusely immediately, and a large piece of flesh and blood disappeared. Damn it. Our armor is too weak to stop this kind of anti-material sniper rifle. A veteran roared in grief and indignation. He has fought all his life, and he has never been so aggrieved. But being aggrieved is aggrieved, and they can only endure it. After all, they don't have such a powerful ability. The bullets continued to hit the car, making terrifying noises. The soldiers in the car didn't dare to trust the armor of the car body at all, and lay down in the car in fear to avoid bullets. But even so, someone was shot by the bullet. The soldiers who were smashed on the spot were all lucky, and the wounded were the most miserable. The wailing sounded like a ghost crying in the wind and snow, and the entire convoy at Choyu base was filled with fear. That sniper is simply too terrifying. They still don't know that the one they are facing is the most powerful sniper in Cheyenne City. Sitting in the middle carriage, Wading Hay's expression gradually became gloomy as he heard the screams outside. Get out of here quickly. Speed up, and don't worry if there are wounded soldiers. It's hard for them to survive anyway. Above the attic, Zhang Yi will replace with a new sniper rifle after he finishes firing 2 magazines. The shooting frequency is too high, and the gun must be cooled down. In the air, only the sound of sniper rifles could be heard one after another. Zhang Yi was so engrossed that he didn't even say a word to his companions. But at this time, Fatty Zhu, Uncle Liu, Liang Yu and others could all hear the shooting through the common channel. The sound of heavy sniping is obvious, but they don't even feel like they are on the battlefield. Instead, it feels like watching someone else shoot at a shooting range. The steady and rhythmic gunshots took away one life after another. Killing, sometimes like this, is as simple as a game. Chapter 407. One person, one gun. Zhang Yi was alone with a gun and hit the entire Zhao base, unable to fight back, so he could only choose to retreat temporarily. Gunshots continued to ring out on the snowy field, and every bullet would make the people in Choyu base tremble with fear. Through layers of snow and fog, even if the modified car is shot, it is difficult to stop it. Chen Jingwen couldn't sit still. I don't know how many people he will kill if this goes on. I'll go over there. After all, he opened the door and jumped out of the car. Braving the severe cold and snow, he dexterously flipped onto the car body like an ape, and then jumped a block behind the last 2 cars. The next moment, his body was elongated and widened, like a huge cowhide blocking the rear of the last few cars. Boom. A bullet from a sniper rifle hit his body directly, but it didn't break through. But the aftermath of the bullet made the steel plate at the back of the car deeply dented, and then fell powerlessly on the snow. A painful expression appeared on Chen Jingwen's face. The power of this bullet is too great. Even if his ability can resist most physical attacks, the pain is still hard to dispel. This also proved that the alien who shot was absolutely terrifyingly powerful. Zhang Yi didn't know that someone else blocked the bullet. He just kept shooting in that direction. He has no shortage of bullets, and once he finds that the muzzle is overheated, he will replace it. Anyway, after confiscating the arsenal of the Zishan base, he has a total of 5 such heavy weapons. 5 or 6 minutes later, the talents at Choyu base completely disappeared from Zhang Yi's sight, and disappeared from the horizon. Run away. It seems that they are waiting for everyone to arrive before trying to find a way to get closer and launch an attack. Zhang Yi raised the corner of his mouth. But no matter who comes over, be prepared to face my sniper attack. Among the communication equipment, everyone found that the gunfire had stopped and quickly asked about Zhang Yi's condition. Zhang Yi, what's the situation with them? Zhang Yi replied flatly, I killed dozens of people and then all retreated back. They are probably planning to wait for people from other forces to arrive before attacking together. Everyone was shocked. You have already killed dozens of people. My god, you are indeed the boss. You are too fierce. Fatty Zhu said in astonishment. It took less than 10 minutes from the sound of the gun to the present. Zhang Yi repelled the convoy from Choyu base by himself and killed dozens of people almost for nothing. Only now did he understand that they were not the ones guarding the first line of defense. Zhang Yi, the shooting range of his heavy sniper is the real first line of defense of the shelter. Zhang Yi said very calmly, "What's so strange about this? It's just a basic operation. If he couldn't even reach this level, he would have absorbed so many different people's power in vain. If supernatural powers were classified into high and low levels, the current Zhang Yi might be unmatched in the entire Xianhe city. After all, the Ling Feng he devoured was the top alien master in Xianhe city before. Long-range sniping and defense are my strengths. If they break through my guns and get outside the line of defense, I'll have to rely on you to resist. When necessary, it's not a problem for me to kill a few aliens with my divine power." Shen Wei combined with precise shooting, although it consumes a lot of energy, it is equivalent to a lock attack. Within a combat range of 300 meters, the power is many times stronger than that of a sniper rifle. Unless it is a foreigner with super defensive ability, there is no way to defend against him. Fatty Zhu chuckled. "Let's see if they have the ability to survive the boss's sniping attack." Zhang Yi didn't show the slightest pride, because it's just a trivial matter to him. If at any time, he could kill a powerful alien of Ling Feng's level with a single shot from 5 kilometers away, then he would be truly abnormal. At this time, Wei Dinghe retreated to the Zhaoyu base at a safe distance, and Wei Dinghe asked people to count the casualties immediately. The reported data is not optimistic. One car has been completely scrapped, and 3 other cars have been seriously damaged. It is estimated that it will be very difficult to drive back. 2 people were slightly injured at the captain's level, and 35 ordinary soldiers were killed. Wei Dinghe's face was extremely ugly. This time they brought out a total of 300 elite fighters. As a result, before approaching Zhang Yi's shelter, the staff was reduced by 1/10. How could this be? It's a bad start. It's very unreasonable for Zhang Yi and his team to have such a powerful alien. As a top alien, Wei Dinghe still has some understanding of the strength of aliens. He has never seen, or even imagined, that someone can shoot from 3.5 kilometers away and penetrate 3mm thick steel plate and body armor. Could it be that there are Epsilon level aliens in Xianhe City? No, it's not that scary. It's just that the long range attack is powerful, so his close combat must be weak. Wei Dinghe quickly made a judgment. If you want to exercise a certain field to the extreme, there must be a short board in its ability. It is impossible for someone to be a flawless hexagonal fighter. So, as long as we are close to the shelter, we can use the blind spot to avoid his shooting. Break the shelter, and the death sniper will be less of a threat. Chen Jingwen opened the car door and walked up. His expression was a bit painful. At that time, he resisted Zhang Yi's bullet, and he suffered a heavy attack. "Boss, the enemy's sniper is too terrifying. We can no longer attack directly from the front. I think it is better to take a long detour and avoid him." Wei Dinghe stroked the stubble on his chin. Detour. If calculated according to Zhang Yi's effective shooting radius of 3.5 kilometers, they would have to make a big circle. Chen Jingwen took out the satellite phone and opened a map on it. Pointing to the location of Zujiazan, he said, "It's better to launch an attack from here. There are many coverings here to avoid being sniped." Wei Dinghe nodded. "It's a good idea, but let's not act in a hurry. Find a place to hide." "Hidden?" Chen Jingwen was a little puzzled. "Haven't we already been discovered? What's the use of hiding now?" Wei Dinghe laughed coldly with a he. There was a fierceness in his eyes. "The pain of snipers cannot be tasted by our family. Let them feel the feeling of being hunted and killed as prey." Chen Jingwen suddenly realized. The 4 forces are only cooperating temporarily, and maybe not long after this battle is over, they will fight again for dividing up the territory. Therefore, it is Wei Dinghe who is happy to see that with the help of that sniper, the other families can also taste the heavy losses. Chapter 408 Full Counterattack. Wei Dinghe was in a bad mood after dozens of his men were killed. But this also allowed him to get an important piece of information. The sniper had limited damage to aliens. At least with Chen Jingwen's defensive power, the opponent's sniper rifle couldn't defeat it. The role of ordinary soldiers on the battlefield is getting weaker and weaker. Sure enough, will it still be the era when aliens dominate the battlefield in the future? Wei Dinghe deeply realized this point. He chose to stand still and would not inform the other 3 of the powerful snipers in the asylum. Soon after, the Yangsheng base, which also owns the team, also came here from another direction. What awaited them was the same unfolding. After they entered Zhang Yi's effective shooting range, Zhang Yi's hunt officially began. With experience this time, he also learned to be smart. Blast the car's tires first, then shoot the driver. As several cars broke down one after another, the same commotion occurred in the convoy of Yangsheng base. Their immediate approach was to rely on the car, trying to find the sniper lurking in the dark. Even the script is exactly the same. Without Wei Dinghei's reminder, the tactics of this encounter would not be much different. After all, they think that they have a large number of people and excellent weapons, and it is impossible to retreat immediately after being sniped, but they want to kill the hidden snipers. It was because of this mistake that Zhang Yi was able to orderly kill one by one. The heads turned into blood mist, and the arms, limbs and feet exposed from the gaps in the car were also smashed. What? My hand, my hand. Those who died were lucky, and those who were maimed suffered the most. They lay on the ground and howled in agony, and Zhang Yi didn't plan to make up the knife. Because these people are already doomed, it's better to let them scream for a while, so as to affect the opponent's morale. Zhao Han practiced here and quickly organized his soldiers to fight back. Quick, find that damn sniper for me and kill him. He dares to ambush in such a place. He is tired of work. But no matter how the people at Yangsheng base searched, they couldn't find the lurking sniper. No one can imagine that someone can snipe from 3,500 meters away. Even if they can find out, looking at the entire Xianhai city, it is impossible for a stranger or a sniper to effectively counterattack Zhang Yi from 3,500 meters away. Sometimes, after getting used to it, Zhang Yi will forget how strong he is. But if there was a fight, he would always give his opponent a headache. In the convoy, suddenly a white shadow flickered to the front. A bullet hit the front of the convoy, and the white figure went directly to meet it. The flame staggered in midair, and the bullet Zhang Yi shot was directly knocked away. However, the white shadow was also retreated several steps by the shock. Oh, finally a decent guy shows up. A smile appeared on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. He saw clearly the appearance of that person. He is a tall and thin man with a wolf-like head and a layer of silver grey hair on his body. This is an alien of the beastman type. No wonder he has such agility and strength. He can catch the next bullet shot by Zhang Yi. When Zhang Yi found him, he also saw Zhang Yi. Dog eyes can always see things that human eyes can't. Is it that far away? Rabbit Liu Zan's pupils shrank sharply, and even he felt it was very difficult. With his skill and speed, if it's one-on-one, he can reach the opponent in tens of seconds and fight. But now, the opponent is in the shelter, he can't attack rashly. Before he could figure it out, Zhang Yi's bullet came again. Liu Zan bared his sharp fangs. His figure was like a ghost, and he used his body to block the bullets. Zhang Yi took his time and continued to attack. Anyway, all he consumed was bullets and some abilities, and once Liu Zan made a mistake, he might die. He likes to do this kind of business that is sure to make a profit. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 rounds. Mad Dog Liu Zan finally felt the strain, and his sharp claws began to tremble. Even if it is a strong orc alien, it is a bit heavy for him to bounce 3 heavy bullets in a row. But when he retreated tremblingly, he didn't show any anger. Instead he raised the corners of his mouth. Preparation is complete. At this moment, the window of one of the armored vehicles in the convoy was opened, and a dark green gun barrel protruded from it. The artillery inside aimed at Zhang Yi's position, and a shell roared out of the chamber and flew to Zhang Yi after a while. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. The opponent was carrying a heavy firearm, which is indeed interesting. But the shell seemed to be submerged in the water, and it didn't destroy anyone, nor did it destroy any buildings. It just disappeared behind the gate of the dimension very peacefully. The artillery on the car was waiting with great anticipation for the familiar explosion to appear. But after waiting for a few seconds, they saw nothing. Dud. An artilleryman looked puzzled. The next moment, a bullet hit, cut off his body in the middle, and fell heavily into the carriage. What? A miserable howling sounded from the carriage. The other artillerymen in the carriage were so frightened that their stomachs retched, and they struggled to swallow the food that reached their throats with a gulp. Then they roared and prepared to continue to fire back. The more afraid of death on the battlefield, the easier it is to die. Attack is the best means of defense. But that is only under the condition that the strength gap between the two sides is not too large. A few more shells roared towards the attic where Zhang Yi was. But after a while, those shells flew back. Not good. Everyone changed color suddenly. Their convoy was too dense. If the shells fell, it is unknown how many people would be killed. This time, even Zhao Hanglian's face became serious. Because there are no aliens who are good at defense among them. The mad dog Liu Zhan roared, his eyes were bloodshot, and his body became bigger again. It soared into the air quickly, and even used its own body to change the trajectory of the shell. But the power of the cannonball is not comparable to the bullets of the sniper rifle. He tried his best, but only slightly affected the ballistic trajectory. Boom. 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 4 shells deviated from the original track and exploded near the convoy, causing a snowstorm to soar into the sky. The violent tremor caused all the cars to stagger, but fortunately there were no major casualties. But Liu Zhan himself was sent flying out, with a stream of blood overflowing from his mouth. Zhao Hanglian raised his eyebrows and said decisively, "Retreat." Chapter 409. In the convoy at Yangsheng base, many soldiers threw smoke bombs. Soon thick smoke billowed and obscured the surrounding vision. Zhang Yi hummed a song relaxedly, and then shot as he pleased. The loss of the Yangsheng base was worse than that of the Chaoyu base, because Zhang Yi broke the tires and tracks of several vehicles at the beginning, making them unable to move. In addition, the Yangsheng base wanted to fight back, and a lot of time was wasted on the way. During this time, Zhang Yi injured Liu Zhan and killed more than 40 soldiers. But even if the loss was not small, Zhao Hanglian would never choose to attack the shelter. Same as Zhao base, they can't devote all their strength to the attack alone. Since it is a joint attack by 4 families, it must be reigned and viewed equally. Each family contributes, and each family must also bear the firepower of the shelter. After losing 4 vehicles and more than 40 lives, the Yangsheng base retreated to a safe area. A super capable sniper, and the opponent also has the ability to rebound artillery attacks. It's not sure if it's the ability of 1 person or 2 people, but any of these 2 abilities can be called terrifying. The expression on Zhao Hanglian's face was very serious. The loss of some vehicles and ordinary soldiers is not the most terrible thing. The most terrifying thing is not knowing the strength of the opponent. But a face-to-face, Zhang Yi gave all of them a huge shock. The elite troops of such a huge Yangsheng base were beaten so helplessly that they had no choice but to retreat. She said leisurely, "Now I finally understand why they can stop the attack of Zishan base for a month with just a few people." There are some things she can't say in front of her subordinates. But according to her judgment, the ability of the sniper in the shelter is definitely not inferior to hers. Zhu Qingting ordered everyone to stand by and let Liu Zhan take medicine to treat his injuries. Fortunately, although many people died, the core combat power was still there, and the morale of the army was not too shaken. He came to Zhao Hanglian's car and asked for instructions. "Boss, what should we do next? Although we can force a breakthrough in the frontal attack, we are still 7 kilometers away from Yangmana. We have no effective means to block the opponent's sniper attack along the way, and if the opponent can rebound the attack, the guns and artillery cannot be used easily." Zhao Hanglian glanced at him. His eyes were calm, and he was not worried. "What are you afraid of? They only have a few aliens, and it is impossible to maintain a long-term battle. Our quartet has thousands of fighters in total, and even a war of attrition can drag them down. However, let's not move forward. It's better to let the other companies go there first to attract the sniper's firepower and consume his abilities." Zhu Qingting nodded and ordered everyone to rest first. But Zhao Hanglian picked up the satellite phone and called Wei Dinghe at Chaoyu base. "Hey, Wei Dinghe, where are you now?" On the other end of the phone, Wei Dinghe said, "Oh, we'll be there in a while. Are you here yet?" The corner of Zhao Hanglian's mouth twitched. "Not yet. We have a long way to go, and we should be the last to arrive. But it will not delay the agreed time." Wei Dinghe smiled and said, "Hey, I thought you guys had already arrived. I was going to ask about the situation over there." Zhao Hanglian also laughed and said, Coincidentally, we both want to go together. Well, let's talk about it when we meet. After the two hung up the phone, they thought at the same time, hurry up and taste the sniper bullet. In Zhang Yi's sight, after the two convoys arrived, some people were killed by him and ran away. Only a few people died. Why are you running away? Do you want to play tricks again? The opponent is on the open snowfield is the most conducive to Zhang Yi's performance. But Zhang Yi also understands that they are not fools, and they will definitely choose other routes after suffering a loss, and will not give Zhang Yi a chance to attack. But it doesn't matter. As long as they attack from the front of the shelter, they will definitely be within Zhang Yi's shooting range. I want everyone to know that I have contracted all the miscellaneous soldiers on the battlefield today. An evil smile appeared on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. The others looked speechless. Liang Yu shook her head. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed that this man could kill the almost invincible Captain Ling Feng in melee combat. Obviously you are so strong. Why are you so stubborn? Fatty Zhu hurriedly shouted, boss, if you have a chance to kill the Yiren, let's kill the Yiren first. After all, we are on the front line, so take some pressure off us. In the end, aliens are the most difficult to deal with. Zhang Yi said lightly, oh, I will try my best. But you'd better not have too much hope. For the aliens who can survive until now, especially the aliens of the enhancement type and the beastman type, the roll of firearms is already very low. He shrugged. You also know that I only double the strength of the opponent who I mark as a colored pen. But when I think the opponent is stronger, it will automatically go invisible. The corner of Fatty Zhu's mouth twitched. I would like to call you the strongest golden left hand, Zhang Yi, but I usually use my right hand, or both hands. Although Zhang Yi said so, everyone understood that he was only being modest on purpose. Zhang Yi never exaggerates his own strength in order to make his opponents despise him and his teammates not rely too much on him. But when he really wants to kill someone, the cruel and despicable means can simply exceed the lower limit of human imagination. Zhang Yi looked into the distance through the tactical eyepiece, and there was a dead silence in his vision. It is full of the sense of sight that the mountains and rain are about to come, and the wind is full of the building. He murmured in a low voice, I have deliberately let the opponent discover my ability to rebound attacks, so that they will be afraid of using large firearms. In this way, the first line of defense can last longer. After all, without the use of large firearms, it is difficult to break through the 10-meter thick ice and snow city wall. Zhang Yi's dimensional gate has a limited area. It essentially opens a door in space, so it is not easy to move. Therefore, it is impossible to use it to block the entire line of defense thousands of meters long. And Zhang Yi showed this ability in advance. As a kind of deterrent, he can maximize its effect. Who will be in the next batch? Zhang Yi muttered to himself while holding the big gun. On the surface, Baixijiao, or King Poo Base, is the object of his cooperation this time. But if you don't shoot, you may miss an excellent sniping opportunity. But soon, Zhang Yi's worries completely disappeared, because he saw a large number of snow worshippers coming on foot from the snowfield in the distance. There are thousands of them densely packed. I'll just stop wasting bullets on them. Zhang Yi shook his head. He should have thought that Snow Worship Church drove its devout believers to die. Chapter 410 Battle of the Five Armies. After Zhaoyu Base and Yangsheng Base, the Snow Worshippers also arrived near the battlefield. Compared with the other three, their advantage lies in their large number of people. Although the combat effectiveness of those believers is not high, but because of the brainwashing of the Snow Worship cult, they are not afraid of death. Some people even firmly believe that, as long as they can die for jihad, their souls can go to the kingdom of God full of flowers and delicacies. But this time, there were more than 1,000 disciples led by the high priest of snow worship cult, Zheng Yixin. They were the closest to Yulu Manor, but due to lack of transportation, they arrived at the latest. Zhang Yi didn't choose to attack them immediately. For one thing, it doesn't make any sense to kill these ordinary congregants. Secondly, the two parties had an unreliable agreement that they would become Zhang Yi's helpers when necessary. Zhang Yi reminded everyone in the communication channel, the snow worshippers have also come. Now except for the King Poo Base, all the other three families are here. Liang Yu had an eager expression on his face. Knowing that the people from the Yangsheng base were nearby, the killing intent in her eyes could hardly be restrained. She desperately hopes to kill the people at Yangsheng base to avenge her dead students. Only in this way can she vent her inner pain and self-blame. But uncle, you asked rationally, didn't you say before that the people from Baixijiao and Qingpu base are helpers? If they also charge at that time, will we kill them or not? Zhang Yi replied, as long as you get close to the defense line, you will be shot and killed. What kind of helper is nothing but a wolf who chooses and eats people? Once Zhang Yi and the others show signs of decline, those guys will immediately join the attack on the shelter. So there is no need to be too polite to them. Okay, I see. It's so much easier that way. Uncle Yu's expression relaxed a lot. He lowered his head and lifted the tarpaulin in front of him. There were a lot of ammunition and 2 Gatling cannons underneath. This kind of large caliber cannon can penetrate armored vehicles. If it is used to beat people, it only takes 1 bullet to beat people to pieces. After the snow worshippers arrived at their destination, they didn't find anyone from other forces, and they also noticed something strange. They immediately contacted several other forces, and Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe wished that they would kill more people so as to consume the defensive power of the shelter. So the two pretended that they hadn't arrived yet and asked Zheng Yixin to wait near young manor first. Zheng Yixin sensed something was wrong. However, he just perfunctory a little bit and didn't move on. Because they came here to take advantage of opportunities, but they didn't intend to really fight with Zhang Yi. If Zhang Yi and the others can block a few waves of attacks and consume the vitality of the other 3 families, we will give them a hard blow from behind. If Zhang Yi can't stop their attack, then we have no choice but to break our promise and join in the plundering of them. Zheng Yixin said with a smile. There are no eternal friends and enemies, only eternal interests. Not long after they arrived near the shelter, the people from Qingpu base also arrived here. Their means of transportation are also backward, but they have raised a large number of majestic sled dogs. The leader, Crossing Cheyenne, and his goddaughter Zhao Lingling, rode a huge mutated magic dog, followed by more than 500 strong men in white combat uniforms with vigorous breaths. And on their sled, in addition to guns and ammunition, they also prepared some very special cold weapons. Huge tomahawks, hammers and machetes, and even shields made of fine steel. Suddenly there is a sense of sight of returning to the era of cold weapons. Crossing Cheyenne picked up the binoculars in the distance and stared at the shelter. He said to his subordinates, without my order, no one is allowed to attack Zhang Yi's shelter at will. Today we are mainly here to watch the show. The 4 forces arrived one after another, and it was time they agreed to attack together. As the initiator of this siege, Zhao Hanglian opened a multi-person call and called the heads of the other 3 companies over. Zhao Hanglian, everyone has arrived nearby, right? Then follow our original plan to attack the shelter from 4 directions. Crossing Cheyenne immediately said, we plan to sneak attack from behind the shelter. Wei Dinghe said suspiciously, the shelter is backed by a low mountain. Are you going to climb over it? Although the mountain range is not high, only more than 100 meters, it is more difficult to climb over the wind and snow, not to mention launching an offensive condescendingly. Crossing Cheyenne said, I came here to watch the play, so you won't find out that I'm fishing when you walk around to the back. It is precisely because of this that we can surprise them. I will leave the front to you, and we will fight from behind. Naturally, the other companies don't have any opinions, and even if they do, it doesn't necessarily have any effect. After all, the 4 families are fighting on their own, and no one can command the others. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe never imagined that Crossing Cheyenne had secretly made an agreement with Zhang Yi. After all, in their view, this is a crusade that they have no possibility of failure. Wei Dinghe said, well, let the 3 of us handle the frontal attack. Zhao Hanglian suddenly said, by the way, when we came, we found that they had a very strong sniper. You better be careful. In addition, there are aliens among them who can rebound artillery attacks. So when using large firearms, it is best to think carefully. Otherwise, we will only cause harm to ourselves. Wei Dinghe also said, oh, I also want to remind everyone of this matter. We also suffered a lot in this regard. The 2 thought that Baixijiao and Qingpu base had also been attacked by Zhang Yi. Speaking out at this time is to avoid affecting myself during the scuffle. Oh, I see. Crossing Shine and Zhang Yi's reactions were relatively average. They came here for paddling, so they wouldn't really fight. At most, they just watched the fire from the other side and bluffed. However, when they learned that Zhang Yi has an extremely rare space type ability and can also rebound flying weapon attacks, they still couldn't help being a little surprised. Because that means that their heavy firearms can be used inside the door. Otherwise, with their number, the shells were bounced back, and it is unknown how many people would die. Well, let's make an appointment. At 2:30, we will jointly attack from 4 directions. Yang Sheng and the people from the Zhao base chose to approach Yonk Manor from the direction of Zujia town. There are a few shelters around Yonk Manor, and in order to deal with Zhang Yi's sniping methods, they thought of a way during the rest process. Without exception, the heavy tanks with the strongest defense, the models with thick steel plates are placed at the front. Other cars with weaker defenses followed closely behind. In this way, it can prevent being consumed by Zhang Yi from a long distance. And in the process of advancing, they use snow fog or smoke bombs to interfere with Zhang Yi's sight. Because they were afraid of Zhang Yi's ability to rebound in space, they could not use artillery to attack the defense line from a distance and could only break through close. When Zhang Yi discovered all this, he was not in a hurry. Because of this kind of development, he had expected it. The other party is not a fool. It is impossible to rush up and let him shoot one by one. However, if the opponent wants to attack, they will definitely get out of the car. At that time, there will still be people who have to be exposed to his guns. No need to worry, good hunters need to have good patience. But at this moment, Yang Xingxin's voice rang in Zhang Yi's ear. Brother Zhang Yi, there are enemies appearing in the direction of the back mountain. Zhang Yi's eyes narrowed. Yang Xingxin sits in the control room and can use the monitoring to pass information to everyone. Sitting on the mechanical wheelchair made by Lu Karen, she moved quickly in the control room. She passed the image of the back mountain to Zhang Yi. After Zhang Yi saw those people who appeared shadowy in the back mountain, he felt relieved. It turned out to be them. Don't worry about these guys, they probably plan to run over to fish. The terrain of the back mountain is relatively bad, and it is difficult to launch an effective charge at all. If they wanted to rush down a steep slope of more than 100 meters with a slope of 70 degrees to 80 degrees, they would be injured all over themselves if Zhang Yi didn't make a move. Crossing Shan appeared here, and his intentions were clear at a glance. They are here to catch fish. Chapter 411 Unexpected Firepower Intensity. Zhang Yi was not particularly worried about Crossing Shan and others who appeared in the back mountain. When building the defense line, he had considered the issue of the back mountain. The place was easy to defend, and he had planted many trigger mines on the mountainside. If you make a forced landing from that place, there is no good way to clear the mines, and you can only be killed alive. The enemy has appeared, ready to fight. Zhang Yi shouted in a deep voice on the communication channel. Everyone in the shelter is extremely focused at this time. This battle can decide life and death. Boom. The chariot teams of Yang Sheng and Chaoyu bases have already moved towards the outer perimeter of the shelter. All soldiers are fully armed, wearing combat uniforms, and holding modern weapons and equipment in their hands. It can be said that they are armed to the teeth. In the dark, there are powerful aliens ready to attack at any time. No matter how they look at it, they feel that they will win this battle. The members of the snow worship cult approached step by step from another direction, holding primitive weapons such as guns and even machetes and spears. The distance was getting closer and closer, and when the tanks in the front row came 300 meters away from the defense line, Zhang Yi suddenly shouted, "Do it." On the console side, Yang Xingxin decisively pressed the button in his hand. Facing the direction of Yang Sheng base and Chaoyu base, cracks suddenly appeared on the snow wall, and the ice layer was pushed open by the huge gun barrel and muzzle. In an instant, the deafening sound of guns resounded through the entire front line. Even vehicles loaded with heavy armor couldn't withstand the bombardment of large caliber artillery and tank main guns. They were directly shot backwards and slammed into the car behind them. Boom. 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 The deafening explosion sound shocked all the forces. Artillery, tanks, and machine guns. My god, where did they get all these weapons? Immortal Zhang Yi was dumbfounded. Fortunately, his men moved slowly and did not get close to the defense line. Otherwise, facing such fierce firepower, everyone would become targets. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe were also taken aback, unable to believe their eyes. These heavy firearms are only held by the Zishan base in the entire Xianhe city. Could it be that they ransacked the weapon depot at the Zishan base? How the hell is this done? The firepower of the Zishan base surpassed that of the entire Xianhe city. However, since heavy firearms are difficult to transport, it is difficult to actually apply them to the battlefield. Today, however, they became the first batch of people to test the cannon. Scatter immediately and fight back. At this moment they had no time to be shocked. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe hurriedly ordered their men to disperse and fight back. But they were caught off guard in the first wave. Many people were beaten to pieces, and the chariots were blown up. This line of defense is nothing more than an ice wall. You can kill it by smashing it. As long as we can get close to that shelter, we will win. Zhao Hanglian said with cold eyes. Although she was caught off guard, she didn't panic. Because Wu Huairan told her that this shelter does not have a weapon system. It is just a solid shell. So they only need to break the outer defense line, and their chances of winning are infinite. The soldiers on the chariot were afraid of being caught in the pot, so they quickly jumped out of the chariot with their weapons. But as soon as they left the chariot, they immediately became Zhang Yi's targets. Zhang Yi stood calmly in the attic, protected the window with the gate of dimension, and then started to snipe. The process of sniping and killing enemies is a bit boring. Just aim, pull the trigger, and reload. Every time this action is repeated, a soldier will be killed. Since the end of the world, Zhang Yi has become proficient in the use of sniper rifles to the point of instinct. On average, every 3 seconds, he kills an ordinary soldier. As for Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base, since Zhang Yi was not predicted to hold a large number of heavy firearms, the losses were extremely heavy. Modified tanks of their kind could not withstand artillery fire. Even the artillery used to attack the city carried by the car was destroyed on the trailer without even being able to pull it off. On the back mountainside, Crossing Cheyenne, who originally planned to watch from the sidelines, couldn't help swallowing his saliva. I've always wondered why Zhang Yi dared to fight against so many forces at the same time. It turned out that he had hidden such a trick. He secretly rejoiced in his heart. Thanks to his wit, he ran to the back of the shelter to catch fish. But he still said to his subordinates, "Brothers, shoot. Make the noise louder. But be careful not to shoot at people." A bald man next to him scratched his head. "Boss, is there anyone around here?" Crossing Cheyenne slapped him on the head. "If you are told to shoot, you can shoot. What a lot of nonsense. In short, don't hurt anyone. I, Crossing Cheyenne, am a strong man, and I keep what I say. We have to do our best when we take things from other people. Unless Zhang Yi is defeated by others, we won't make trouble." As a result, intensive gunshots rang out from the back mountain, and those who didn't know thought they were launching an urgent attack. But on the front line, the fight is really hot. The two bases were caught off guard by Zhang Yi, causing heavy casualties for a while. Zheng Yixin was worried that he would be suspected if he didn't make a move, so he directly ordered a group of believers to attack the defense line. Even if there were hundreds of believers holding all kinds of cold weapons and crude firearms, they rushed towards the defense line screaming. In front of the shelter is a flat open space without any cover at all. They rushed over, and before they got close to the defense line for 100 meters, they were directly smashed into a sieve by machine guns. Zheng Yixin frowned. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so ruthless. He didn't give him any face. But considering that acting must be a complete set, he had no choice but to hold back his emotions. "It won't work like this. We miscalculated the firepower configuration of this shelter." Zhao Hanglian gritted his teeth. Looking at the many soldiers who were killed by the bombing, he began to regret it. If they had known that Zhang Yi had such a strong firepower, they would have been more prepared to come back. But who would have thought that a temporary team formed by a warehouse manager in the last days would have the firepower that only a militarized army could have? At this moment, Wei Dinghe's voice came from her ear. "We must work together to break through this outer line of defense. Most of their firepower should be here, and they are short of manpower. As long as they break through the defense line, they will fall into a comprehensive disadvantage. You cover me with firepower, I will solve it. Zhao Hanglian immediately said, okay. Weiding Haze, Ice and Snow Lord, can produce miraculous effects at this time. She immediately ordered everyone, suppress firepower and cooperate with Chaoyu base to attack the Ice and Snow defense line. As for Baxageo and King Poo base, they also received their request. Zheng Yi continued to ask his disciples to die with a cold face, and Crossing Shan just chuckled and told everyone to point their guns at the sky, and it was over. On the ground of Zaoyu base, Weiding He was covered by a layer of crystal ice and snow armor, and then his whole body slowly melted into the ice and snow of the earth like mercury pouring down the ground. The defense line outside the sanctuary, the guns are still spewing flames, wantonly ravaging the three forces in front. But suddenly, a sudden change occurred. Without any warning, a wall of ice and snow exploded with a boom. Sharp snow blocks flew around like flying knives, and a cannon behind was also directly overturned. Okay. Zhang Yi and the others also noticed the changes here. There was no sign. Why did it happen all of a sudden? While the ice and snow were flying, Zhang Yi saw a figure covered in thick ice and snow armor. There was a hint of sarcasm at the corner of Weiding He's mouth. In the world of ice and snow, I'm the king. What kind of machine guns and artillery can deal with ordinary people? But it is meaningless to deal with a powerful alien of ice and snow like him. Because the distance was too far, Zhang Yi couldn't activate Shenwei. However, after the defense line was opened by Weiding He, the coalition forces had shed up, rushing this way screaming. In a short while, thousands of soldiers would cross the ice and snow defense line and rush into the shelter. Weiding He continued to attack. After he pressed his right hand on the wall, the supernatural power was activated, and the huge ice and snow barrier exploded like paper. The steel and iron frame in the middle lost its support and collapsed. Even Zhang Yi couldn't help constricting his pupils when he saw this ability. Weiding He's ability is many times stronger than Fatty Zoo's. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412 Battle. Get started. Zhang Yi said calmly to everyone. He was not surprised that the line of defense would be breached. After all, it was just a barrier made of ice and snow, and it would not be able to withstand all attacks. He just didn't expect that the other party would have such a powerful ice and snow ability user, tearing his barriers apart like wallpaper. However, he is not unprepared. After the line of defense, the second line of defense is Uncle Yu, Liang Yu and others. Weiding He laughed and casually destroyed the ice and snow defense line, and soon tore a huge hole. But at this moment, a strong killing intent locked on him. Weiding He's eyes froze, and a cold light flashed past him. Crack. The thick frost armor on Weiding He's neck shattered, and blue ice crystals flew. Regardless of his image, Weiding He rolled on the ground, avoiding the fatal blow. He could clearly see the image of the person who came. It was a woman holding a long and narrow sword with killing intent in her eyes. It can actually chop up my frost armor. Weiding He couldn't help becoming vigilant. His frost armor was made of ice crystals, and its defense was comparable to high-grade synthetic metals. Unexpectedly, someone almost cut off his neck just now. Hey. Weiding He had no intention of continuing to fight. He instantly melted into the ice and snow underground. In the ice and snow environment, his fighting power is the strongest. Liang Yu frowned and shouted, Fatty Zoo. At this time, Fatty Zoo also arrived. He didn't expect that he would meet another alien of the ice and snow department, and it seemed that the other party was much better than him. But fortunately, he has many older brothers, so he doesn't need to fight in person. Without saying a word, Fatty Zoo directly lifted a large piece of snow from the ground. The snow layer around the shelter is relatively thin, which is related to the terrain in the long-term battle before. So Fatty Zoo easily set off a large block of ice and snow. Weiding He, who was hidden in the ice and snow, saw that the situation was not good, so he could only run out from inside. And Liang Yu had been waiting for him to show up. As soon as Weiding He appeared, She slashed at his body with the knife full of killing intent. Crack. The blade was 1.3 meters long, but the light of the blade was 3 meters long, directly shattering the light blue ice armor on his chest. Wei Dinghe only felt a pain in his chest, and a line of blood appeared on his chest, and bright red blood seeped out. Enduring the severe pain, Wei Dinghe quickly used his special ability to recondense the ice armor to cover his chest, temporarily restraining the wound. He didn't expect that Zhang Yi's shelter would have such a powerful melee fighter. However, his goal has been achieved, which is to tear open the gap in the line of defense. Liang Yu drew his sword and wanted to attack, but Wei Dinghe retreated from the gap very wisely. When Liang Yu wanted to chase after her, countless soldiers from the base appeared in front of her, killing them with weapons in hand. Bullets poured down like a shower. Liang Yu took a deep breath, then she resolutely drew her sword and rushed towards the dense crowd. Fatty Zhu was shocked when he saw this scene. Teacher Liang, don't be impulsive. But Zhang Yi said to them, you just need to guard the gap, let her go. Liang Yu needs to vent, and only by letting her have a good kill can she release her pressure. Zhang Yi had no reason to stop the path she chose. The big ones are yet to come, you all be careful. Their strangers are coming too. At this point in the battle, the influence of ordinary people has become smaller and smaller, and the aliens are the most difficult. Sure enough, after the line of defense was breached, there was a loophole in the firepower network, and the pressure on the coalition army suddenly eased a lot. Zhao Hanglian jumped onto the front of an armored vehicle, picked up the jug, and poured a mouthful of high purity alcohol into her mouth, then opened her mouth and spit out a long fire dragon towards the ice and snow defense line. The solid ice and snow defense line instantly melted. The internal firearms were also affected and could no longer exert their due power. The morale of the coalition army was high for a while, and they rushed forward screaming. Their field of vision is wide open, and they can clearly see that behind the ice and snow defense line, there is nothing but a shelter standing behind it. Victory is just around the corner. Go. The mad dog Liu Zhan howled excitedly. But at this moment, the wind and snow blew up around the defense line. Fatty Zhu summoned the vast snow, forming an obstacle at the gap. The gigantic Huahua stood in front of the gap, looked at the soldiers attacking this way, opened her mouth and let out a deafening roar. Hundreds of soldiers were so shaken that their eardrums ached, and blood flowed from their ears, and all of them became dizzy, and temporarily lost consciousness. Boom. 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 There were heavy footsteps. Uncle Yu turned into a 2-meter tall giant, with his upper body bare and bullet belts wrapped around him, holding 2 Gatling cannons in front of the gap. Uncle Yu let out a roar, and then firmly pulled the trigger. The coalition forces, whose sight was blocked by the wind and snow, were still anxiously looking for their direction, when they saw tongues of flame piercing through the snow and fog, and smashing the bodies of one soldier after another at the same time. Puff puff. Bloody mist filled the air. It was the body shattered by high-energy bullets. The Allied forces felt like harvested wheat. Although the combat uniforms on them are very effective and bulletproof, it is impossible to withstand the indiscriminate bombardment of the Gatling cannon within a distance of several hundred meters. On the other battlefield, Liang Yu has gone crazy. Her ability is very simple. Similar to Ling Feng's strengthening ability, it can improve her comprehensive physical ability. Speed, strength, reflexes, even intuition. But Liang Yu's talent is too high. As a master of martial arts, she is even more powerful after obtaining these abilities. She crisscrosses the battlefield, all bullets avoid her, and every time a knife goes down, a soldier will die in battle. And Liang Yu's goal is also very clear. It is Zhao Hanglian, the leader of the Yangsheng base, standing on a high place with flame marks all over his body. The enemy was extremely jealous when they met, and Liang Yu was about to kill him with a knife. But a sharp cold light struck her neck from the side. Chang. Longming blocked the fatal blow. The mad dog Liu Zhan stopped not far from Liang Yu, staring at her with the gaze of examining his prey. It's inappropriate to chop my people like vegetables, isn't it? Zhao Hanglian in the distance just glanced down at Liang Yu and didn't pay any more attention. As the commander-in-chief, she didn't have any extra thoughts on a small soldier. Liang Yu's pupils showed a strange color of blood, and at this moment she was surrounded by a strange aura. It was a terrifying appearance that Zhang Yi, Yang Xingxin and others had never seen before. Liu Zhan also noticed the extraordinariness of this enemy. He stuck out his scarlet tongue and sneered, "Interesting." He bent down, and his figure began to grow gradually, and his bright claws and teeth stretched a lot, like sharp long knives. Liang Yu's eyes never left Liu Zhan. She slowly sheathed the long knife, and her body was also lying down. As a top martial arts expert, she is proficient in martial arts from various countries, and Ju Chop is also the most skillful move among her sword skills. A bloodthirsty frenzy flashed across Liu Zhan's pupils, and with a roar, his figure suddenly became unreal. His body flitted across the air, leaving behind an afterimage. No one could see his movements clearly. The aliens of the Beastman family will have the ability to transform into animals in terms of physique. Mad Dog Liu Zhan, his animal transformation is a grey wolf, with terrifying assault speed and impact. He can even stop the bullets of sniper rifles. A gust of wind swept across the battlefield, and Liang Yu's eyes could not catch Liu Zhan's figure. And in this situation, she chose to close her eyes slowly. 10 saber lights flashed across the air, and Liu Zhan's iron claws pierced her soft and fair neck from behind. The moment the iron claw was about to pierce the skin, Liang Yu's knife was pulled out like lightning. One cut off Liu Zhan's arms, and another cut across his neck. Liu Zhan's body was still in a forward posture, and he brushed past Liang Yu. But the body ran a long way on the ground before the head and arms slowly fell to the ground. On the side of the gap, the battle has also entered a fierce stage. Huaha, Fatty Zhu and Uncle Yu tried their best to defend, and killed countless soldiers. But after the aliens from the three parties joined, the situation of the battle changed instantly. There are not a few masters in Zhaoyu base and Yangsheng base. After tearing the defense line, it's time for other people to play. Wei Dinghe was wounded and retreated temporarily, but 5 more strangers came over. Uncle Yu was still carrying 2 Gatlings to kill ordinary soldiers. A white shadow flashed by his side. The next moment, Wei Dinghe's adjutant Shen Jingwen appeared on Uncle Yu's body. That's right, it's on the body. Like a snake without bones, he wrapped itself around Uncle Yu's torso, and then began to strangle him. Uncle Yu was taken aback, and then began to explode with strength, trying to break free from Chen Jingwen. Chen Jingwen said coldly, "Sniper rifles can't penetrate my body, do you still want to break free?" He was like a big white boa constrictor, entangled Uncle Yu tightly, and then tightened inward. Although Uncle Yu's strength is great, but Chen Jingwen's ability is Rubber Man, which is the most restrained tank of this type of strength. Fortunately, after Huahua saw this scene, she roared directly at Chen Jingwen's head. Roar. Huahua's roar shook Chen Jingwen's dizziness, and he almost lost consciousness. Uncle Yu's resistance was relatively strong, and after feeling the loss of Chen Jingwen's restraint, he immediately tore him off his body. Uncle Yu tugged hard a few times, but this man was like a brown candy. No matter how hard he tugged, he kept tugging. At the same time, other aliens rushed to besiege them again. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. He knew that it was pointless to stick to it any longer. He didn't want Uncle Yu and others to die in battle. After all, he had very few friends. Everyone retreat. Come back to the shelter. Liang Yu, you are the same. You can't take revenge by yourself. Be sensible. After everyone received Zhang Yi's order, they immediately chose to retreat while fighting. On Liang Yu's side, she looked at the dog's head in her hand, and a strange color flashed in her eyes. Then she wiped the blood on her face expressionlessly, and chose to follow Zhang Yi's call to return to the shelter. After all, she had been slaughtered for a long time, and her powers were also very consumed. If it weren't for the food made by Yang Mi, she wouldn't be able to survive until now. But this time, she gained a lot. It's meaningless to fight any longer. She can't get close to the commander of the Yangsheng base. Chapter 413 Backstab. Liang Yi returned to the inside of the defense line, and Zhang Yi was also relieved after seeing her figure. Fortunately, she was not stupid and really ran over to die. The crowd retreated while fighting, relying on the cover of Zhang Yi's sniper rifle and the gate of the dimension. They successfully retreated to the entrance of the shelter. Zhang Yi let them enter the shelter, but looked at the snow worshippers in the distance, who were still working hard. Still watching? Zhang Yi decided to give them a little punishment to let them know that watching a movie is not so good. Zinxin, aim all the remaining firepower at the snow worship cult and shoot a volley. The damage to the defense line in the direction of snow worship cult was not serious. Firstly, the snow worshippers didn't try their best to attack, and secondly, Zhang Yi didn't really kill them at the beginning. But now they are still waiting and watching. Zhang Yi will not be polite. He will not allow anyone to pick the fruit. Yang Xingxin understood. She tapped on the keyboard flexibly with her 10 fingers, and soon, the firepower net in the direction of Zhu Bei was also activated. Zhang Yixin originally planned to continue to wait for the right time, and then wait for the price to be sold. Whoever wins, who they help. However, the sudden gun attack directly caused heavy casualties to these snow worshippers who lacked defensive equipment. Zhang Yi, you. Zhang Yixin quickly withdrew to the rear of the team, annoyed at Zhang Yi's attack on them. But he also understood that Zhang Yi was angry at their delay in taking action. At this time, Zhang Yi's people all retreated into the shelter, and the soldiers from the two bases of Chaoyu and Yangsheng rushed over screaming, and all gathered in the space in front of the shelter. Zhang Yixin took a deep breath. It's almost time to do it. Zhang Yi's loss won't do them any good. Several major Al-Qaeda organizations are their most hated enemies. He immediately ordered that a group of snow worshippers come out more and more, and then set off in the direction of the shelter. At this time the shelter has been surrounded. Someone threw smoke bombs around the shelter, which greatly interfered with Zhang Yi's sniping methods. Zhang Yi did not turn on the infrared function to prevent the opponent from hurting his eyes with explosives such as grenades. Looking at the densely packed soldiers outside, Liang Yu and the others felt very nervous. Zhang Yi, what should we do now? Shall we abandon the two-story building on the surface and hide underground? Uncle Yu asked Zhang Yi for his opinion. What's the rush? The defense of the shelter is not so easy to break. Just as Zhang Yi finished speaking, he suddenly heard a rumbling sound. Then through the smoke, he vaguely saw the crowd disperse in the distance, and a huge construction vehicle slowly drove over. Zhang Yi frowned, feeling something was wrong. Then he opened the different space, and took out the whole box of grenades and explosives from it. The gate of the dimension protected the window, and Zhang Yi began to throw these grenades and explosives out of the window. Before those people had time to be happy, there was a violent explosion in the crowd. Immediately, 7 or 8 people were blown away, blood and limbs flying everywhere. And the grenades and explosives thrown out of the window will not stop. Zhang Yi, who has emptied the warehouse of the Zishan base, has always had no shortage of weapons and ammunition. You really think you've won by breaking the first line of defense, don't you? How stupid. Zhang Yi sneered and threw a large bundle of explosives. The shelter is my biggest reliance. Explosions rang out one after another, killing hundreds of people in no time. The rest of the soldiers ran away in a panic, frightened. But in the face of Zhang Yi's abnormal ability, they have no way to fight back. Someone tried it, but in the end all the ammunition shot into the gate of the dimension fell on their own heads. The shock wave of the explosion dispersed the smoke, and Zhang Yi could only see clearly at this time that the person driving the construction vehicle was somewhat familiar. After thinking about it carefully, he recalled that this person was Wu Huairen from Zhenlang Security Company, old friend. I didn't expect them to have such a skill. No wonder they came to attack my shelter so confidently. Zhang Yi's tone was a bit unfriendly, and he immediately picked up the grenade and threw it over there. But that engineering vehicle was the top priority of the operation, so it was naturally well protected. Seeing Zhang Yi throwing the grenade, a figure suddenly flashed in the air, caught the grenade like craft paper, and then threw it aside. This is Chen Jingwen, the adjutant of Chaoyu base, and his ability is Rubber Man. As long as the kinetic energy does not exceed the threshold, he can catch almost all physical attacks. Wu Huairen took the opportunity to drive the engineering vehicle to the side of the shelter. A long mechanical arm protruded from the construction vehicle and then aimed at a certain position on the wall, spraying out a slender blue flame to start cutting. Zhao Hanglian calmly ordered, spread out and attack from the side. Cover his sight. Thick mist rose all around, covering the surroundings of the shelter. They have no way to counterattack Zhang Yi's sniping methods, but they have ways to limit them. Sure enough, this brought Zhang Yi a lot of trouble. And at this moment, Zhang Yi suddenly heard Zhao call to the police. Warning, warning. The wall of the shelter is continuously under high temperature cutting, and the damage is 0.001%. Continuous cutting? Zhang Yi immediately realized what happened. Wuhu Iron can drive engineering vehicles to damage his shelter. This shelter was built by Wuhu Iron's previous company, and he knew exactly where it would be easier to cut. How long will it be broken? Zhang Yi asked calmly. Zhao replied, according to the current speed, it will take 1 hour and 29 minutes to completely break through. Zhang Yi felt more at ease. It would take that long just to break through, and it might take a whole day to open a hole that allows people to enter. This day is enough for him to kill many people. He said that, if these people really fight him with their lives, they will die. Even if they are broken through, they can also be transferred to the ground. But these forces will also be broken, and the casualties will be heavy. Zhang Yi simply ignored the construction vehicle. He lowered his head, using the sniper rifle and grenade in his hand, to kill the enemy's vital force as much as possible. Affected by the smoke bombs, the efficiency of sniping has also been greatly reduced. But as long as one hits, the opponent will surely die. Uncle Yu and the others were on the first floor, and they couldn't see what was going on outside, but they could hear the sound of kai cutting from the wall, and they couldn't help feeling worried. Boss, shall we withdraw? Fatty Zhu asked worriedly. Don't worry, wait a little longer, Zhang Yi said in a calm voice. Less than 20 minutes after the start of the battle, they fell into a state of being surrounded. Judging from the scene, they were at a disadvantage, where they could only be beaten passively. However, facing the strongest forces in Xianhe City at the same time, they can kill hundreds of people with 0 deaths. It is hard to say that Zhang Yi and the others have suffered a disadvantage. However, with the appearance of Wuhu Iron, if the fight continues, the shelter will still be unable to hold. Zhang Yi is waiting. The snow worshippers have been fishing in troubled waters. Due to the fact that each force is responsible for attacking in different directions, the 2 bases of Zhao and Yangsheng have not been found so far. Today, the 2 bases have suffered heavy casualties. Such a good opportunity. Will Snow Worship Church give up? Of course not. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe sat in the rear, looking at the shelter that was close at hand. They both felt that the general situation had been settled. They all share a sense of relief. At the beginning, no one thought that this small shelter would be so difficult to attack. Right now, they have lost a large number of soldiers before they can control the shelter. Fortunately, after ordinary soldiers died in battle, they could still be compensated. As long as they can get a large amount of supplies in Zhang Yi's hands, this battle will be worthwhile. What's more, after that, they will be able to carve up the resources of Zishan District and Lujiang District. At this moment, followers of the snow worship cult came to the crowd one by one. The people around did not notice the abnormality either. Although the relationship between the major forces and the snow worship sect was very bad in the past. But this time, the snow worship cult is on their side. When hundreds of snow worshippers came to the crowd and distributed to every corner, all of them had bright smiles on their faces. Some people even walked over, put their arms around 2 soldiers from the base, laughed and chatted with them, and then stretched out their hands to detonate the explosives on their bodies. Chapter 414. The 2 bases, Zhao and Yangsheng, both believed that victory was just around the corner. But no one expected that there would be such a violent explosion among their soldiers all of a sudden. At this time, all soldiers gathered around the shelter, and the density was very high. The snow worshippers detonate their own soil explosives, and they can take away a large group of people in no time. Although it is a very common explosive, as long as the amount is enough, it can kill people. The flames soared into the sky, and the violent explosion covered all areas around the shelter. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe's eyes almost popped out. What's going on here? Where did the explosion come from? When they attacked, in order to prevent Zhang Yi from planting landmines, they had already carried out detonation. Where did these explosives come from? A soldier under his command reported nervously. It's those lunatics from the snow worship cult. They have explosives on them. Come and find us and die together. What? Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe turned pale with shock. Those damned bastards dared to take the opportunity to attack us. By the time they realized something was wrong, it was too late. Zhang Yi commanded the worshippers of Baeksu cult who were not afraid of death, and charged towards the troops of the two bases. The two bases suffered heavy casualties at this time. The battle damage exceeded 70%, and the combined number of soldiers was less than 200. And Snow Worship Cult has always maintained a lot of vitality. At this time, they attacked from behind, immediately causing a huge impact on the unsuspecting two major bases. Although their weapons are simple, and they don't have good armor, each of them shouted fanatical slogans, and came here with red eyes to fight hard. The enemy who is not afraid of death scares the enemy the most. A touch of madness appeared in Zhang Yi's cold eyes. He raised his hands, controlled two huge chariots, and slammed into Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe's car from a high altitude. You bastard, you're plotting against us. Wei Dinghe and Zhao Hanglian saw Zhang Yi from a distance. Their eyes seemed to eat people. If eyes can kill, then Zhang Yi has died 10,000 times. Wei Dinghe controlled a large amount of ice and snow to block the chariot. But Zhao Hanglian had a fiery personality and rushed out directly through the roof of the car, sweeping the chariot away with just one punch. Zhang Yi stood in midair with a crazy sneer on the corner of his mouth. Ha 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 ha. Zhao Hanglian, Wei Dinghe, you two damn fellows, you have today. Beizujio forbear for too long. In every dispute, they have to pay a painful price and compromise with several major bases in exchange for living space. Zhang Yi waited for the opportunity to raise his eyebrows, and naturally laughed wildly, venting his inner distress. Go to hell with all of you. From now on, Cheyenne City is no longer a place for you to show off. Zhang Yi led his men, and launched a crazy attack. And the actions of Snow Worship Cult also caused the soldiers who attacked the shelter, to suffer from both sides. Zhang Yi raised the corner of his mouth. We can close the door, and beat the dog. The Snow Worship sect is in the front, and they are in the back. People from the two bases have no way to escape. The door of the shelter opened, and Liang Yu and the others had already eaten the supernatural food made by Yang Mi and recovered. They rushed out, and started killing the soldiers and aliens of the two bases from behind. The situation on the field changed so fast, that no one could have predicted this unfolding. Even Crossing Shan, who was putting on airs in the back mountain, was dumbfounded. Why did the Snow Worship Cult suddenly rebel? He frowned and thought for a while, and suddenly felt a chill down his back. Only then did he realize that an agreement had been reached between Baeksu and Zhang Yi long ago. If today, he was also the one attacking Zhang Yi, then he would face the same situation as Yang Sheng and Zhao bases at this time. Although you may not lose, you will definitely suffer heavy casualties. Fortunately, Crossing Cheyenne patted himself on the chest, very grateful for his original choice. Now I'm making big money without doing anything. Suddenly, he thought of something, and the smile on the corner of his mouth widened. If they fight like this, wouldn't the strongest in Cheyenne City be our Kingpu base? Ha ha ha. The situation on the battlefield has reversed. The sudden attack of the Snow Worship Cult made it unbearable for the coalition forces of the two bases, which already suffered heavy casualties. What's more, Zhang Yi's team did not suffer any casualties. Zhang Yi opened the door, and released a group of beasts, another naked killing. Uncle Yu was carrying two Gatlings, and was covered in bullet belts. He roared angrily and started shooting. Liang Yu stabbed each other, like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, like chopping melons and vegetables. One knife could kill one's life. And Zhang Yi's gun is more ruthless, keeping the speed of one head in 2 seconds to harvest. Even in this chaotic battle, he started to attack the aliens and the two bases. Within a distance of 300 meters, Shenhua's sniper ability is extremely terrifying, because it can lock the head. What's more, in the chaotic battle at this time, no one will concentrate on guarding against his ability, which is the most suitable for him to attack. A foreigner was thinking about breaking out, or turning around to deal with Liang Yu and the others behind him. Suddenly, he felt a huge force pulling the space around his neck. Then, his neck was snapped, and his head flew out of the cranial cavity. Until the moment of his death, he didn't know how he died. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe panicked just now. They hurriedly tried to find a way to contact Crossing Shan, hoping that Crossing Cheyenne would bring his army to rescue them. But this time, they couldn't contact Crossing Cheyenne's people anyway. This damn bastard, he must have betrayed us too. Wading Hay's back felt cold. Haoshan's previous attack was so powerful that he thought that Crossing Cheyenne had already led someone to launch an attack. But until they surrounded the shelter, they didn't see a single member of the youth base. No matter how stupid Wading Hay is, he still understands what this means. Quickly retreat. The three of them have secretly colluded together, and if we don't leave, it will be too late. Without hesitation, Wading Hay immediately called on his defeated soldiers to retreat. Zhao Hanglian was startled and angry. She couldn't understand why Zhao and King Pu base would backstab them. But now, anger is of no avail. If they continue to fight, they may have a slight chance of winning, but the possibility of annihilation is even greater. As the leader, it is impossible for her to keep fighting. All troops retreat. Zhao Hanglian poured down a big gulp of pure alcohol and spit out a fiery fire dragon toward the snow worshippers in the rear. Dozens of people screamed and were burnt to charcoal. Green smoke rose all over her body, and her whole body seemed to be on fire, with red magma-like markings flowing on her body surface. Zhao Hanglian jumped high, and then forcibly killed the snow worshippers in front of him. Seeing this, Zhang Yi did not dare to resist. The top combat strengths of the four bases are all transcendent, and it is difficult for ordinary soldiers or aliens to stop them. All he wanted was to weaken the combat power of the two bases as much as possible, and he never thought of destroying them with this battle. Otherwise, if the fish dies and the net breaks, they, the congregants, will all be wiped out. Zhao Yu and Yang Sheng base teamed up to carve a bloody path through the crowd. The aliens from the two bases teamed up to open the way. Although the snow worship cult had a large number of people, it was like a snowman encountering a soldering iron, and a path was quickly cut. The engineering vehicle driven by Woohoo Iron had given up cutting and wanted to run away. But for this person who can threaten the safety of the shelter, Zhang Yi has long been eyeing him. Just one bullet smashed his head, completely eliminating the aftermath of the shelter. In the end, less than 100 soldiers from the two bases escaped from the siege. They left countless corpses, chariots, and weapons and headed eastward in embarrassment. Neither Zhang Yi nor the snow worshippers chased after him. Those who worship the snow sect are incapable of chasing cars. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, didn't want to provoke the wild beasts and cause casualties to his own personnel. Zhang Yi looked at the direction they were going away and raised his fist high. Victory! The congregation behind them cheered excitedly. Each of them looked excited and even hugged each other excitedly. This is the first time their snow cult has ever won against Al-Qaeda. Although the number of their deaths in this battle exceeded 500 for snow worship cult, this was still a beautiful turnaround. After all, most of their deaths were ordinary congregants, which could be made up for. The two major bases killed the elite, and they would not be able to train without spending a certain amount of time. After this battle, the vitality of the two bases was severely damaged. In the future, it will be difficult to launch an invasion of the Zishan and Lujiang areas, not to mention harassing the snow worship cult's sphere of influence. Chapter 415 Empty Shell. Zhao Yu base and Yang Sheng base were defeated and fled. In this battle, Zhang Yi and Bei Zhujiao won the final victory. Zhang Yi silently put away his sniper rifle, looked at the remnants of the two major bases who had fled, and then at the worshippers of the snow worship cult who were rejoicing there. For a moment, he had the urge to fight this group of people again. The biggest losses in this battle are these three forces, and Zhang Yi's people are almost unscathed. Of course, this has something to do with Zhang Yi's full preparation in advance. But as a price, except for the shelter, the surrounding buildings were almost completely destroyed. Among them was the villa where Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu lived. 70% of the ice and snow defense they had spent several days building was also destroyed. This battle was extremely dangerous, and it also made Zhang Yi realize the horror of large-scale war. Zhang Yi was deeply afraid of the fearless fighting style displayed by Bei Zhujiao. He even felt that this religious organization was more terrifying than the Al-Qaeda forces. But after thinking about it for a while, Zhang Yi gave up his plan to attack them. The snow worship cult is a group of fanatics who are not afraid of death. If you lose your team members in order to kill them, it is absolutely not worth it. What's more, the most people in the snow worship cult are people. Unless they kill their aliens, no matter how many ordinary sex kill, they can quickly make up for it. Zhang Yi put away his gun and went downstairs. He looked towards the back mountain. Crossing Cheyenne really kept the agreement, did not attack them, just watched from the sidelines. This made Zhang Yi involuntarily give Crossing Cheyenne a high look. This guy still keeps his promises. Of course, this is also related to the strength shown by Zhang Yi and the others. Credit should also be built on strength. Zhang Yi took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Crossing Cheyenne. You can come and pick up the rest of the food. Crossing Cheyenne quickly replied, wait a moment, we have other things to deal with. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. Something else? He vaguely guessed something, but that matter had little to do with him. So Zhang Yi smiled lightly and didn't pay much attention to it. He walked out of the shelter. Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Huahua were all covered in blood, and Fatty Zhu was panting from exhaustion. Fortunately, everyone prepared the supernatural food made by Yang Mi, which quickly restored the supernatural energy in the body. Otherwise, with such high intensity continuous fighting, they would not be able to persist until now. Okay, everyone. We won. Zhang Yi walked over and patted everyone on the shoulder. When he patted Liang Yu's shoulder, he felt that her shoulder was as hard as steel. It's okay, the fight is over. And you also avenged your students. Zhang Yi comforted him. Liang Yu's murderous eyes like icebergs suddenly melted at this moment, and she leaned against Zhang Yi weakly. Only then did Zhang Yi realize that there was a deep wound on her neck. Although the blood had solidified, it was still terrifying. Zhang Yi's eyes froze, and he quickly picked up Liang Yu and returned to the shelter. Just now this crazy woman rushed into the opponent's battle formation alone and chopped up the soldiers of the coalition army as vegetables, attracting a lot of firepower. She can only be said to be lucky to survive. Zhang Yi sent Liang Yu to the infirmary. Before Zhao Ken had time to celebrate the victory, he was shocked by Liang Yu's wound. She hurriedly prepared medical equipment and medicines and performed hemostasis and suture operations on Liang Yu. And the next step is to do the finishing work after the war with Bexagio and King Poo base. More than half of the snow worship cult suffered casualties, and even the aliens were killed in battle. But for them, this battle was totally worth it. After paying such a heavy price, in exchange for the development space of snow worship cult for a long time in the future, they are happy to make this kind of exchange. Zhang Yi still maintained his vigilance against them. He walked over and said to Zheng Yixin from a distance, this battle is over, you can leave. From now on, the site of Zishan base will belong to me, Zhang Yi. None of you are allowed to approach without my permission. After this battle, Zheng Yixin also saw the terrifying strength of Zhang Yi's team. He bowed and saluted Zhang Yi. Thank you for helping us win this war. According to the agreement, except for the missionaries, no one who worships the snow cult will come near this land. Zheng Yixin understood that it was Zhang Yi and others who had dragged the main force of the coalition forces and killed the vital forces of the coalition forces. Otherwise, relying on them alone, it would be impossible to challenge the two major bases. He wants to understand one more thing, that is, Zhang Yi has already reached a cooperation with the people from the King Poo base. In other words, even if they were not on Zhang Yi's side this time, it would be difficult to gain much benefit. I hope that we will be able to coexist peacefully and respect each other with your excellency in the future. Zheng Yixin said to Zhang Yi with a smile. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. Ah, of course. I'm a pacifist after all. There is no grievance between Zhang Yi and Beizhujiao. At this time, both parties have their own fears, so no conflict broke out. Zheng Yixin led the congregation of the snow worship cult, chanting sacred prayers, and drifted away. On the snowfield, their prayers echoed. Snow in the sky, everything on the earth. Our bodies are born from the earth. Our souls come from heaven. The sun and the moon shine on our bodies. The pure snow washes our souls. Give this body to the cold wind that blows across the earth. Thank God for granting miracles to the land where the people of Snow God live. May our hearts be always in good health. I wish to share the joy with all my fellow man. May I share their grief with them. Please always praise the people of snow worship cult. Let us bear witness with our own soul and body. Watching their backs going away, Zhang Yi's narrowed eyes flashed a look of vigilance. This time, it wasn't them who gained the most, but Snow Worship Sect. Zhang Yi's team has proved its strength, so that other Al-Qaeda groups dare not invade their territory again. But Snow Worship Cult has gained room to survive and breathe. With their religion's powerful ability to absorb followers, they will soon become even stronger. Moreover, with the blessing ability of Yuan Kangai, the leader of Snow Worship Cult, their number of aliens will also increase rapidly. Exactly like locusts. At the beginning, they were unable to develop rapidly because of the constraints of several major bases. And now that they have lost their restraint, how far will they expand? When the day comes, when he is so powerful that no one can restrain him, will he become Zhang Yi's enemy again? All of this is unknown, but certainly possible. Zhang Yi experienced the fear of several major bases at the beginning. Maybe I unleashed a monster. But now I don't have a choice. Zhang Yi said softly to himself. No matter what other forces are, now, he only cooperates with forces that are in his own interests. As for the future, let's leave it to the future. After all, the expansion of Snow Worship Cult's strength is only his guess. Zhang Yi silently walked to the battlefield and gathered all the useful supplies. All the coalition troops are elite, and their weapons and equipment are very valuable, which can just make up for Zhang Yi's loss this time. In addition, many aliens died in this battle. 7 of the aliens that Zhang Yi observed were killed. Based on the principle of not wasting, he wanted to absorb the abilities of these people. But when he found those aliens, he unexpectedly discovered that 3 of them had turned into empty shells. Huh? What's the situation? Was it absorbed by others? Zhang Yi felt that this phenomenon was very strange. After all, during the battle, no one should have the energy to do this kind of thing. But right now there is no other way to explain it, so he didn't go into it. After cleaning the battlefield, Zhang Yi turned around, smiled and said to his old friends, let's go back. It's time to take a good rest. Miao jumped onto Zhang Yi's body, rubbed against his neck, and immediately left a big pool of blood on his body. In this battle, it turned into a chariot, crushing and killing many enemies. Zhang Yi gently touched its head, then put his left arm around Uncle Yu, and his right hand around Fatty Zhu, and the 3 returned to the shelter with shoulders and backs smiling. Chapter 416. On the snowfield in the distance, Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe led the defeated army, and fled here with difficulty. They were in a state of embarrassment. How magnificent they were when they came, and how miserable they were when they fled. Combined, there are less than 100 remaining soldiers, and even the powerful alien captain lost 5. In this battle, the armed forces of their respective bases were almost cut in half. Wei Dinghe himself was slashed by Liang Yu, and his injuries were serious. Coupled with the anger attacking his heart, his injuries tended to aggravate. Beizu Jiao, crossing Shan. These bastards actually betrayed us. Wei Dinghe slammed the car hard, and the violent noise expressed his inner anger. But anger doesn't do anything. Failure is failure. They lost because they underestimated their opponents. They think that Zhang Yi only has a small team and a small shelter. So they didn't take people like Zhang Yi seriously. But when they really fought, they realized that they had made a big mistake. From the perspective of firepower, defense and alien level alone, Zhang Yi's team is definitely no less than the original Zishan base. In addition, as the defensive side, they have a geographical advantage. Even if they are 1 against 2, they can fight impressively. Zhaoyu base and Yangsheng base were defeated because they underestimated the enemy, and before they obtained enough information, they made judgments according to their own common sense. So it's not a loss for them to lose. If they knew it was like this, they might have brought all the combat power of the entire base over. Or choose to negotiate with Zhang Yi to carve up the territory left by the Zishan base more gently. It's a pity that there is no regret medicine in this world. They must swallow the bitter fruit of underestimating the enemy. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe sat in the same carriage. In the case of an emergency retreat, their chariots were basically destroyed, and now only 4 have been driven out. Hearing Wei Dinghe's complaint, Zhao Hanglian gritted his teeth with hatred. She wasn't surprised that Baeksu Church betrayed her, but why did the Green Base also help Zhang Yi? This is what she can't figure out the most. If the Xingshan Legion of King Pu Base joins the battle group, the situation on the battlefield will definitely not be so difficult. After all, that faction is best at large-scale wars. Crossing Shan, how much benefit did Zhang Yi give you to make you choose to betray us? The more Zhao Hanglian thought about it, the angrier she became. She took out her satellite phone and wanted to contact Crossing Shan to question him. But Wei Dinghe stopped her suddenly. Don't be impulsive. Okay. Zhao Hanglian stared at him, not understanding what he meant. Wei Dinghe said quietly, Crossing Shan and the others didn't launch an attack on us. These guys are nothing but fools, and they never really joined the battle group. So I guess they took some of Zhang Yi's benefits and then stood on the sidelines, and no one helped. He gritted his teeth and cursed. This group of guys have always acted prudently and are unwilling to take risks. If they can get benefits without fighting, they will be very happy. The major forces are old friends and rivals who have dealt with each other, and Wei Dinghe has a good understanding of Crossing Shan's character. Zhao Hanglian said angrily, what about the agreement between us? He broke his promise and caused us heavy losses. How about this matter? Wei Dinghe sighed. Now that our two major forces have suffered heavy losses, do you think it is possible to go to Crossing Shan to settle the case? Just ask him not to add insult to injury. Just come and attack us. But not long after his words fell, there was a roaring sound in his ear. It's like an avalanche, and it's like there are thousands of troops rushing over. Wei Dinghe and Zhao Hanglian changed their faces at the same time. They had heard this movement before. Crossing Shan Legion. On the vast snowfield, the 4 cars were full of people, and the speed of progress was not fast at all. Crossing Shan led more than 500 people under him to attack all the way, blocking their way. Ha 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 ha. Crossing Shan sat on the back of the magic dog and laughed loudly. Zhao Hanglian, Wei Dinghe, why are you leaving in such a hurry? Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe had no choice but to come out to face the Xingshan Legion in its heyday. At this time, the morale of the entire Xingshan Legion was high. They didn't participate in the battle just now. They have been watching from the sidelines, and they have long been eager to try and plan to fight. So at this time they gave Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe the feeling that they were a group of howling wolves. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe's hearts sank involuntarily. If there is another conflict between them at this time, it is very likely that they will all die here. Crossing Shan, you didn't follow our agreement to attack Zhang Yi's shelter. What are you trying to do now? Zhao Hanglian raised his eyebrows, pointed at Crossing Shan and yelled loudly. The corner of Crossing Shan's mouth twitched, and he sneered. Don't you know what I want to do here? Both of you are rich and powerful local rich men. It's not too much for me to collect some tolls, right? Facing Crossing Shan's blatant robbery, people in the 2 bases were extremely angry. But there was nothing they could do. After all, they were all bruised, and they couldn't stand another large-scale war. Wei Dinghe said to Crossing Shan, Crossing Shan, I don't understand. As long as you join us to take down Zhang Yi's shelter, then we can share the whole Zishan district and Lujiang district. But why did you choose not to help each other? Did you already know Zhang Yi's background? This is the doubt in Wei Dinghe's heart. He has to ask it out. Even if he loses, he has to understand it. Zhao Hanglian also stared at Crossing Shan, and she didn't know why Crossing Shan did this. Crossing Shan crossed his arms and said casually, the reason is very simple. The Qingpu base doesn't have as many vehicles and energy as you, so it doesn't have the ability to govern with long arms. Even if we win this battle, I will not be an opponent of your 2 bases when dividing up the territory. So, Zhang Yi promised to give me 10 tons of food, and I happily agreed. He spread his hands. He gave me 10 tons of food, so that I don't have to do anything, and you draw a big cake for me, so that I can fight to death. Tell me, how should I choose? Wei Dinghe and Zhao Hanglian didn't know how to refute what Crossing Shan said. In fact, they did have such a plan. Once Zhang Yi's shelter is captured, they will immediately occupy the best sites and resource points by virtue of their high mobility. In this regard, there is no way for Snow Worship Sect and Qingpu base to compete with them. It's just that they didn't expect that Crossing Shan would think of contacting Zhang Yi. Crossing Shan was too lazy to waste his time with them. Okay, now let's talk about the toll. His smile became more perverted. How much material do you have to spend to buy the road? Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe had no choice but to choose to take out a large amount of supplies in exchange for Crossing Shine's letting go. Crossing Shine was in full bloom, and they hadn't fought much from the beginning to the end of this battle. As a result, he made a lot of money in terms of supplies. And with the decline of the two major bases, they will also be promoted to the top forces in Xianhe City from now on. They all thought that Crossing Shine, was a fool, but look now, who is the real fool? Crossing Shine smiled cheerfully. Chapter 417 Devourer. After the war, Zhang Yi sent Zhao Ke to rescue Liang Yu. Others are resting in the living room to recover their strength. Inside the warm and bright shelter, it can always give people infinite warmth. Especially after a war, it is more satisfying to be able to enjoy soft sofas and freshly ground coffee in this luxurious villa. But soon, restless voices came from outside. Crossing Shine went back and forth, coming to ask for the food Zhang Yi had promised. At this time, Zhang Yi and others had consumed a lot of physical strength and abilities. However, relying solely on the green base, it is absolutely impossible to break through the shelter. So Zhang Yi took people out calmly and handed over the rest of the food to Crossing Shine. Seeing the almost unstoppable smile on Crossing Shine's face, Zhang Yi knew that he had made money this time. From now on, Xianhe City will be the strongest in your green base. Congratulations, Zhang Yi said to Crossing Shine, an old classmate. Crossing Shine smiled, haha, no matter where you are, you can be regarded as showing awe, and no one will dare to provoke you in the future. I really didn't expect that you have such a strong strength now. Zhang Yi, you are really there. Crossing Shine's emotion was not polite. Being able to block the joint attack of the two bases with just a few people and consume nearly half of their troops, Crossing Shine was also deeply afraid of this kind of strength. From now on, you will inherit the territory of the Zishan base. After this battle, the Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base have been severely damaged and may never recover from their heyday. Crossing Shine said with a smile, of course, we are old classmates, and I don't want to conflict with you. He didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the Zishan base. Zhang Yi smiled and nodded. It is naturally the best result, to be able to live in peace. Crossing Shine was about to leave, but when he was parting, he suddenly said to Zhang Yi, by the way, there is one more thing I have to remind you. Okay. Zhang Yi looked at him curiously, not knowing what Crossing Shine was going to say. Crossing Shine's expression was a little cautious. You are very powerful. You have also cooperated with Snow Worship sect without telling me. But you have to be careful of those guys. In troubled times, there will always be some religions that are good at demagoguery. They will have no restrictions in the future. Who knows how far it will develop. Zhang Yi also felt a little apprehensive when he thought of those believers charging forward shouting the name of Snow God. If there are too many people who are not afraid of death, it will indeed become a big trouble. Although Zhang Yi has a shelter and doesn't need to worry about this aspect, but the thought of being missed by these people will inevitably send shivers down his spine. I see, thanks for the reminder. After Crossing Shine finished speaking, he rode a magic dog and led the army from the Qingpu base to leave the battlefield. Looking at the devastation outside the shelter, Zhang Yi fell into deep thought. Too many people died in this battle. Corpses were everywhere. Blood stained all the surrounding land red. Almost no pure white snow could be seen. The ice and snow defense line that took them a lot of energy and invested a lot of firearms was also destroyed by more than %. The cruelty of war is evident. Go back and clean it up slowly. Looking at the densely packed corpses on the ground, Zhang Yi sighed lightly. Now he has no time to clean them. He turned around and returned to the shelter and announced to everyone, the war is over. It wasn't until Zhang Yi said this in person that relief expressions appeared on everyone's faces. Lu Karen pushed Yang Xingxin, and the two looked at each other. Their joy was beyond words. Because Yang Mi has been using supernatural powers to make food, she is also very tired at this time. Zhang Yi did not ask her to cook, but took out a large amount of food from the different space and filled a large table. Fresh delicacies, as well as various high-end fine wines, were all brought out. After the war, the joy of victory and the joy of the rest of the life made everyone's appetite much bigger. Even people who don't drink very well on weekdays, now they pick up the wine glass and pour it down their throats. Zhang Yi took 2 beef burgers and a cup of hot coffee and came to the infirmary. Zhao Ke had just performed surgery on Liang Yu. Liang Yu's neck was seriously injured, which looked shocking. Zhao Ke was shocked when she unbuttoned her clothes. She couldn't believe that Liang Yu could fight for a long time in this state. Zhang Yi can understand Liang Yu. Her fighting on the battlefield was maintained purely by a desire for revenge. So after the battle, she immediately fell down. Zhang Yi walked over and handed the food to Zhao Ke. How is it? Is Liang Yu's injury a serious problem? Zhao Ke took a sip of coffee and said to Zhang Yi, the wound is deep, but I have already stitched it up. She is an alien of the reinforcement system. Her body functions are better than ordinary people, and she recovers quickly. So don't worry. What will happen? Having said that, she glanced at Zhang Yi faintly and said with a little jealousy, Yiren is really good. All kinds of convenience. Zhang Yi smiled. He knew that Zhao Ke was still thinking about the ice soul in his hand. But thinking of all the mysteries of snow worship sect, Zhang Yi still couldn't be completely relieved. Isn't your medical skills much more useful than supernatural powers? Zhang Yi hugged her and said with a smile, we can lack a stranger among us, but we can't lack a doctor. Don't belittle yourself. You are very important to us. Zhao Ke raised the corner of her mouth, and she was very happy to get Zhang Yi's affirmation. After this battle is over, will we live a peaceful life in the future? Zhao Ke asked. Zhang Yi thought for a while and said, at least peace will be maintained for a period of time. But how long it will last, no one can say. The Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base were seriously injured, and they must recover their strength first, and it is impossible to come to Zhang Yi to die. To be honest, what they need to worry about most now is not Zhang Yi, but the other two major forces in Xianhei City. The Qingpu base made a pure profit this time. Not only did it not lose any troops, but it also benefited from both ends. The snow worship cult had a large number of casualties. Given the appeal of their religion, as long as they were not suppressed by other forces, they would quickly absorb followers. So what follows is a game between these forces. And Zhang Yi's team, which has the smallest number of people, will be feared by them, but they will not be listed as their main competitors. Because the number of people is small, it means that too many resources are not needed. Zhao Ke leaned her head on Zhang Yi's shoulder. But after thinking about it, she stood up again and came behind Zhang Yi to massage him. She just had a minor operation, but Zhang Yi fought a big battle. Zhang Yi was not polite either. He just lay lazily on the bed and asked her to give him a full set of massage. Just when Zhang Yi was drowsy, Liang Yu, who was still receiving drips on the hospital bed, slowly opened his eyes. The speed of recovery of the aliens of the reinforcement system is indeed surprising. Seeing Zhao Ke, who was helping Zhang Yi with a massage, she couldn't help being speechless. You two should pay attention to the situation. I'm lying here seriously injured. Seeing that Liang Yu woke up, Zhao Ke was a little embarrassed and patted Zhang Yi on the back to remind him. Zhang Yi turned his face skillfully. Continue. That teacher Liang is awake. Zhao Ke gestured with his eyes. Oh, so fast? Zhang Yi sat up. Liang Yu's face was a little pale at this time, and the bandage was tightly wrapped around her neck. Zhang Yi, I have something to tell you. This is the first sentence Liang Yu said to Zhang Yi. Seeing this, Zhao Ke smiled and said, you guys talk first, I'll go have a drink with them. When Zhao Ke left the ward, Zhang Yi asked, what do you want to say? Liang Yu said to Zhang Yi, during the battle, I killed a foreigner. Then, I absorbed his power. Since we are companions, I think it is necessary to let you know about this matter. Because I think this information may be very important. Liang Yu had heard about this matter from a foreigner at the Zishan base before. But it was her first attempt herself. The feeling of making herself stronger is wonderful, and she doesn't want to hide something from Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi frowned. Oh, that's what it is. The ability to eat together is not possessed by every alien. This he has confirmed. Neither Uncle Yu nor Fatty Zhu possessed such abilities, but he, Hua and Ling Feng did. Today, he has figured out some of the meanings. Perhaps this has something to do with the potential of Inhumans. Whether it's him, Hua or Ling Feng, their abilities are obviously stronger than those of Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu. So Liang Yu also has this ability, which makes Zhang Yi very happy. This shows that Liang Yu has a huge room for growth in the future. Congratulations. That's a good thing. Zhang Yi smiled and said to her, "We have lived and died together, and we will be the closest partners in the future. It is a good thing for us that you can become stronger." Zhang Yi patted his thigh, and there was one more thing he was more concerned about. "You killed so many people in Yangsheng base. It's considered revenge for your students. Have you opened your knot now?" Liang Yu looked at the ceiling, and she slowly closed her eyes without answering Zhang Yi's question. Zhang Yi smiled. "No answer is the best answer. Maybe Liang Yu won't be able to forget about it for a while, but there is nothing that time can't erase. Whether it is a love that is sworn to each other, or a friendship that is impenetrable, it will gradually fade and be forgotten after a long time. One always has to live in the present." Chapter 418, The Disappearing Corpse. The headquarters of Snow Worship Cult. Yuan Kanga led a group of believers, waiting for the victorious return of those who went out in the snow. The white holy robe wrapped her whole body. Her immature face looked a little weak, but her eyes were extremely firm. This battle blocked the future of Snow Worship Cult. Only when Snow Worship Sect joins forces with Zhang Yi to strike hard at other major forces, will Snow Worship Sect gain room for development in the future. But if Zhang Yi didn't resist the coalition's attack, they would also have a sip of soup. Whether it is a small profit or a big victory is very important to them. In the distant wind and snow, the figure of the retinue appeared. Zheng Yixin returned here with the remaining half of the fighters. Seeing that their number had been reduced by half, the congregation felt a little nervous. This doesn't look like a victory. But before Zheng Yixin came to the crowd, all of them had proud smiles on their faces. Zheng Yixin bowed to Yuan Kangai and saluted. "Master, fortunately, we did not disgrace our fate. Under the protection of the snow god, we achieved a great victory. The gangsters at Zhaoyu base and Yangsheng base were severely injured by us, and their vitality was severely injured. From now on, it will be difficult to pose a threat to our Snow Worship Sect." As soon as these words came out, there was a burst of excited cheers at the scene. I don't know how many people hugged each other excitedly with tears in their eyes. It's been a long time since Snow Cult has suffered from several big bases. Finally, they won a round. This is a historic moment. There was also a gleam of light in Yuan Kangai's eyes. She stepped forward to help Zheng Yixin up. "Thank you for your hard work, High Priest. The gods will never forget your achievements." Zheng Yixin looked up at her and said in a deep voice, "It's just that we also killed many devout believers, including 2 priests, Lin Fei and Meng Xian. Lin Fei and Mencius were originally aliens in the Snow Worship Cult, and they served as priests second only to priests in the Snow Worship Cult. In this battle, they unfortunately fell." A soft smile appeared on the corner of Yuan Kangai's mouth. She held her chest with both hands and said like a mother hugging a child, "They haven't left, they've come back here. I can feel their presence." Zheng Yixin quickly said, "May every deceased be with the Lord." A faint light flashed in Yuan Kangai's eyes, like a dark tide. "Now, nothing can stop our expansion. I want to let the light of Snow God fill every corner of Xianhe City. Then there is the whole country, and even the whole world. Let the Snow God become the only true God, and the glory of the Snow Cult will last forever." All believers put their pious right hands on their chests and looked up at the sky. The glory of Snow Worship Cult will last forever. That kind of faith in the eyes, like sunshine, seems to be able to dispel the severe cold of the doomsday, and they want to spread the faith to the whole land. After the end of the Battle of the 5 Armies, the power structure of the entire Xianhe city has undergone tremendous changes. The Zhaoyu base and the Yangsheng base are equivalent to backstabbing the Baixijiao and Qingpu bases, which will seriously hurt their vitality. Fortunately, their headquarters base still retains half of its combat power and basic resources. This keeps them from being destroyed, but it also takes a lot of time to restore their vitality. The most critical point is to recover from injuries and retrain a group of elite fighters. The loss of a large number of aliens is their worst pain, because ordinary fighters can make up for it, but the appearance of aliens can only be favored by heaven. So they had to shrink their sphere of influence. All the troops are concentrated in the headquarters, not to mention expanding to the outside world, and they can't even fully control the scope of their own territory. The house leak coincided with the continuous night rain. Under such circumstances, more and more slaves under their command began to flee. The propaganda of Snow Worship Cult is very good. in the form of religion. It is a fantasy for those who are struggling to survive in the last days. They will willingly throw themselves into the arms of snow worship cult. However, Zhang Yi is not a fool either. He didn't act recklessly enough to dare to go to King Pooh Base and Zhang Yi's territory to attract people. Instead of bullying the weak and fearing the strong, he first went to the territory of the two major bases and gave him a blow. The power structure of Xianhai City is like this for the time being. Zhang Yi fought with prestige in the first battle, and no one dared to underestimate them. This also ushered in a period of peace for the sanctuary. After a period of recuperation, everyone's condition has recovered quite well. Several of the frontline fighters were more or less injured, but they are now fine. Even Liang Yu could come out with a bandage and act normally. Everyone could feel that Liang Yu had changed since the Battle of the Five Armies. The indecision in her was gone, replaced by a peaceful indifference. He speaks little, but has a sense of being indifferent to life. Zhang Yi is no stranger to this. It was the same after he was reborn. People will grow rapidly after experiencing great joy and great sorrow. After this battle, all the villas around the shelter were destroyed by artillery fire. Zhang Yi also formally invited Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu to live in his shelter. Everyone has experienced many life and death battles and has established a certain degree of trust. A loss and a loss, a glory and a glory. In addition, no one can guarantee that the war will not happen again. It is safer to let them all live in shelters. Zhao Heimei is undoubtedly the happiest. As an aunt in her 40s, although she still looks youthful and beautiful, like all older women, she likes to be lively and can't stay idle. Now that we live together, she can cook with Yang Mi every day and invite a few girls to play cards together. There is always the sound of playing mahjong in the living room. A little noisy, but it sounds very comfortable. There is a warm and pleasant atmosphere in the shelter. Zhang Yi, Fatty Zhu, and Uncle Yu are free to play poker or video games together. There is plenty of energy in the shelter, and the dark sky outside will not be reflected here. Every day there are bright lights in the room. The lighting system worth tens of millions is adjusted to a warm yellow. When they are hungry, they can enjoy the fresh food in the space. Thirsty, the temperature-controlled wine cabinet has high-grade red wine, authentic Russian stout, and Zhaoke's hand-ground cat poop coffee. Rather than saying that they are surviving in the last days, it is better to say that they are here on vacation. The outside world is full of suffering, but here is a peaceful paradise. Everyone enjoys the hard-won happy life, but they also become a little lazy. So much so that the half-damaged ice and snow defense line outside didn't bother to clean up. The large number of corpses left by the great warriors were too lazy to take care of them. What is there to worry about? The most powerful forces in Xianhai City have all been beaten away. Who else would not dare to attack? But after a few days like this, one morning, Zhang Yi, wearing blue silk pajamas and slippers, came to the window to watch the snow scene. Suddenly, he noticed something strange in the scene in front of him. The vast snow outside covered everything, and the snowflakes were still falling in pieces, sometimes big and sometimes small. Is something missing? Too clean? Zhang Yi frowned and thought for a while, and suddenly realized something was wrong. Corpse? Why are the bodies gone? Thousands of corpses were left behind in the Battle of the Five Armies, but now not even one can be seen. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419. They went away by themselves. Zhang Yi felt terrified. Why did more than 1,000 corpses suddenly disappear? He still remembered it yesterday afternoon. Could it be that they got rid of it? Zhang Yi was not too nervous, but picked up the binoculars and searched carefully to avoid being dazzled. But after searching carefully, he finally confirmed that it wasn't his eyesight, nor was the body buried under ice and snow. Those corpses really disappeared. Zhang Yi's heart tightened for no reason. There are many weird things in the last days that cannot be explained clearly. Even creatures can mutate. So will corpses also undergo necromorphosis? Zhang Yi took a deep breath to calm himself down. He put on his combat uniform prepared his weapon, opened the door and went downstairs. Yang Mi and Zhao Heimei are already preparing breakfast. The two were talking and laughing, and there was nothing unusual about them. Apparently, none of them noticed what happened outside. From the ingredients in front of them, Zhang Yi judged that what they planned to make were soy milk and steamed buns, as well as delicate side dishes. Standard Chinese breakfast. Zhang Yi walked over and greeted them. Yang Mi looked at Zhang Yi in surprise. Why did you get up so early today? Normally, if there were no special circumstances, Zhang Yi would sleep until 9 or 10 o'clock before getting up. Of course, it's not that he sleeps late. The main reason is that he is often busy with important things the night before. Hey, are you going out? Zhao Heimei looked at Zhang Yi, noticed that his clothes were very formal, and was a little surprised what he was going to do. It's nothing. There are some changes outside. I'll go and have a look. Zhang Yi looked out the window and walked out the door silently. The two women didn't know what happened, and they looked weird. It's just that Zhang Yi's expression made them a little nervous. Zhang Yi came outside, holding a gun in his hand, and walked towards the original battlefield step by step. The densely packed corpses here at the beginning have disappeared. The night's heavy snow covered many things, but it couldn't completely cover up all traces. Thousands of corpses disappeared at the same time, leaving clues. When Zhang Yi came closer, he finally realized something was wrong. Just around here, under the snow cover, he vaguely saw many footprints of different shades. There are too many footprints, as if a large army passed by. And there are no footprints coming, only leaving. Zhang Yi's back trembled, as if something cold behind him was staring at him. His hairs stood on end. Because he realized that these corpses were not stolen by someone, but stood up by himself, and walked away from here step by step. Zhang Yi suddenly turned around, but there was nothing behind him. His heart was pounding, and he felt a little relieved after clapping his hands twice. Even Zhang Yi, who has killed countless people and experienced life and death, still feels creepy, even terrified, because of this weird thing. He took a deep breath and said to himself, what's there to be afraid of? I've killed so many living people, even if there are dirty things, what can I do? Zhang Yi boldly walked forward along the faint footprints on the snow. He found that these footprints were heading east, with no end in sight, and he didn't know where the corpses went. Zhang Yi still had some taboo in his heart, and he didn't dare to follow him alone. He returned to the shelter, panting heavily after taking off his helmet. Yang Mi and Zhao Heimei were a little nervous, and quickly asked Zhang Yi what they found. Zhang Yi didn't tell them directly, but asked them to call everyone over. The two called everyone as they said. Everyone was sitting around the sofa in the living room in lighter clothes. It was strange to see Zhang Yi in combat uniform. Zhang Yi said, don't be afraid of what I'm going to say next. Take a deep breath first, and calm yourself down. When he said that, everyone couldn't help feeling nervous, so they took a few deep breaths as he ordered. Then, Zhang Yi spoke slowly, and said in a calm tone as much as possible, last night, more than 1,000 corpses outside the shelter disappeared. I've looked at the footprints on the ground and they probably walked on their own. Zhang Yi's tone was very calm, but after he finished speaking, the air in the whole room seemed to drop several degrees. Especially the women at home. Their eyes widened, and they subconsciously cuddled together. Zhang Yi, you, don't make such a joke. It's too scary. Zhao Ke's face turned pale, and she put her arms around his arm and said, as a doctor, she is a firm materialist, and she doesn't believe in any supernatural things. Zhang Yi shook his head. I didn't want to believe it at first, but the facts are in front of me. You can go and see for yourself. Everyone woke up in the morning and no one paid attention to the corpse outside. At this time, they all hurriedly gathered around the window. As a result, after looking at it, I couldn't even see a corpse. How is this possible? Zhao Ke's shocked eyes shook, and his mind was in chaos. Fatty Zhu swallowed his saliva, and said to Zhang Yi, boss, did you put away all the corpses, and play tricks on us on purpose? Everyone looked at Zhang Yi, and hoped that this was just a prank by Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes. Am I that boring? His denial made everyone feel even more scared. What exactly is going on? It's fine if one or two are missing. How could thousands of corpses disappear overnight? Since all the peripheral cameras were destroyed after the First World War, everyone could not check what happened through playback. But if it was really done by a certain force, transporting so many corpses would require the use of transportation tools. It is absolutely impossible to be so silent. When everyone was panicking, Zhang Yi became calmer and calmer. He woke up from the initial confusion. Now that this is an era full of mutant creatures, all weird things become less unusual. It is very likely that it was done by aliens or mutant creatures. As the backbone of the shelter, he needs to find out the truth and avoid missing any important information. Everyone finishes eating first, and then everyone who can take a taxi will go out with me to see what's going on. I found out where their footprints are. As long as I follow them, I will be able to find clues. Everyone is curious and scared at the moment. They are eager to get the answer. Therefore, everyone agrees with Zhang Yi's proposal. Today, Zishan District and Lujiang District are their territories. Any suspicious incidents should be clarified to avoid future troubles. So everyone finished breakfast quickly, and then Zhang Yi called several main combat forces, changed their equipment together, and chased in the direction of the footprints. Chapter 420 Underground. The sudden change made everyone dare not be careless. They are not afraid of the forces composed of people, but they will maintain, or of unknown things. Since the end of the world, more and more things have become impossible for people to see through. This even reminded Zhang Yi of a saying in history books. In a year of rampant disasters, demons and ghosts will appear. The group of people did not drive, but followed the dense footprints carefully. There was a lot of wind and snow, and everyone was very nervous. Perhaps now, they are all worried that they will see those corpses walking forward in human form. Everyone walked all the way, and I don't know how long it took, but they didn't find any footprints on the ground disappeared, but they didn't see any corpses either. This made them more convinced that those corpses came here with 2 feet. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. Let's drive and follow. It seems that they have traveled a long way this night. Although everyone is wearing combat uniforms, they still feel uncomfortable after staying in the ice and snow for a long time. So Zhang Yi got into the car and slowly followed the direction of the footprints. After driving for 10 minutes, the car finally came to the place where the footprints disappeared. Zhang Yi and the others got out of the car and hurried forward. Then they saw a huge, deep cave in the snow. The black snow pit is bottomless. There is no light in it, but there is a kind of terror of wanting to choose someone and devour it. Gudu. Zhang Yi couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and then took a few steps back silently. What the hell is this? Why did those corpses come to this place? Could it be that there are aliens who can manipulate corpses? Liang Yu couldn't help saying, however, to be able to control thousands of corpses to travel so far, it would be too terrifying to have such a foreigner. The scene fell into silence again. After the Ice Age came, more than 1,000 million people died in Xianhai City. If someone can control so many corpses, then he can easily destroy any force. Fatty Zhu said with trembling lips, could it be the zombie crisis broke out? He has watched many zombie-themed movies, and he was deeply impressed by the scenes of the zombie siege. Zhang Yi shook his head. I hope that's the case. He glanced at Fatty Zhu and said with a smile, you don't think there really are such things as zombies? How much threat can they pose to us now? He can kill living people. If there are a large group of slow-moving zombies that will die, if their brains are knocked out, there is no threat to Zhang Yi and the others. And it's unscientific. Under such a temperature, the corpses have already been frozen. How could they walk like normal people? Looking at how messy the footprints are, it's not like jumping forward. Fatty Zhu nodded. Yes, in such a cold day, if there are a group of zombies that can jump forward, it would be really cool. Everyone was discussing next to the cave, and no one knew what the situation was. The unknown is always frightening. Now Zhang Yi hopes that they are zombies or something like zombies, rather than some mysterious things that cannot be pondered with common sense. While several people were discussing, Uncle Yu looked around and suddenly said, why does this neighborhood seem familiar to me? It seems it's a site. Huh? What site? Everyone looked at him curiously. Uncle Yu looked around and slowly confirmed his deduction through a few high-rise buildings. I know where this is. I've stayed in this neighborhood before. It's called Sigwajian. and the place under our feet is the Sigwa subway station. Everyone heard the words and looked at their feet. For a moment, Zhang Yi figured it out. I understand. That is to say, these dead people actually passed through the station and entered the subway tunnel, right? The subway itself is underground, and now it is buried by heavy snow, so it is 30 meters away from Zhang Yi and the others in a straight line. No wonder it looks like a deep cave. Liang Yu frowned. If you say that, is there something controlling these corpses in the subway tunnel? Zhang Yi touched his chin, but did not come to a conclusion. After the end of the world, everyone is desperately living. Zhang Yi would not be surprised if there were living people anywhere. The subway system in Qianhe City is very developed, and there are many stations in every area. It can even be said that there is a dark city underground in Qianhe City. After the end of the world, there will definitely be people hiding in the subway. Or some people were in the subway when the blizzard came, and they didn't escape later. It would not be surprising if some of them survived to this day. Zhang Yi can be sure of one thing. There must be strange people or creatures playing tricks in it. But Zhang Yi didn't understand what the other party was going to do with so many corpses. Zhang Yi, how do we deal with this place? Uncle Yu looked at Zhang Yi and asked, if someone can really control dead bodies, then he definitely has more than 1,000 dead bodies, and the number may be unimaginable. If such a person becomes our opponent, it will be very difficult. Fatty Zhu said, do you want to blow up this place? Prevent them from coming out of the ground to attack us? Uncle Yu said speechlessly, Fatty, are you stupid? Do you know how huge the subway network in Qianhe City is? Can you blow up the entire subway network? Just blow up one exit, and there will be new exits a few kilometers away. It's easy to scare the snake by doing so. Fatty Zhu said with a worried face, but when I think of so many living dead underground a few kilometers away from us, I'm quite scared. Zhang Yi spoke at this time. Leave them alone for now. We haven't had any conflicts with them, so don't initiate contact with them. If you stay far away from this place in the future, don't get close to anyone. Zhang Yi said, while motioning for everyone to back off. Great dangers may lurk in the depths of the subway. If it is not necessary, Zhang Yi will not bring people in to investigate. Then, just keep this unknown thing. Liang Yu asked with a frown. There was a weird smile on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth. Keep it. Anyway, even if something goes wrong one day, I won't be the one who suffers the most. As Uncle Yu said, Qianhe City's subway system extends in all directions, covering the whole city, and Yang Manor is located on the edge of the city, and there is only the subway line from Songshuang to Sigwa nearby. If something goes wrong one day, just destroy it. But within the territories of other forces, the subway lines are much more complicated, and there are more people. If any weird existence really erupted, they were the first to suffer. Let's go. Leave it alone. Zhang Yi backed away slowly and turned around and got on the car after 4 or 5 meters away from the cave entrance of the subway. Although the others had worried eyes, they didn't dare to take the risk to investigate, so they had to go back with Zhang Yi. After everyone returned to the shelter, they explained to everyone and comforted them again. Don't worry, we will live a good life inside the shelter in the future. Even if there are any zombies or the like, we can clean them up easily. We are not even afraid of people. Are we afraid of some corpses? Their shelter's fighting power is over the top. With so many aliens, even if a zombie crisis breaks out, they can easily deal with it. Everyone felt a little more at ease. Although they would not forget this matter for a while, they were not so nervous anymore. However, Zhang Yi still asked everyone to erect the outer defense line again. Most of the weapon system has been lost in previous battles, but there are still some remaining. It is very necessary to erect a line of defense as a buffer against sudden conflicts in the future. Chapter 421 The Expansion of Snow Worship Cult. The life in the shelter has entered the daily stability. However, several other forces have fallen into a tense situation. The Snow Worship Cult preached in the territory of Zhaoyu and Yangsheng bases and attracted more survivors to join the religion. Those who join my Snow Worship Cult have sufficient food, a stable life without danger, and everyone is equal. Whoever joins my Snow Worship Cult will not enter reincarnation, will not fall into hell, and will enter the kingdom of God after death, enjoying bliss in peace. Those who join my snow worship cult can wash away all their sins and regain their lives. In the last days, people need two things. The first is material satisfaction. The second is spiritual satisfaction. And the banner played by snow worship cult just satisfies both of these requirements. Therefore, more and more survivors were called to join their ranks. The scale of snow worship cult is rapidly growing at a speed of disorderly expansion. On this day, Ulu community welcomed a group of ascetics in grey and white Taoist robes. Dafazao Jianhu appeared in the snowstorm with a cane in his hand. There are only 18 living people in Ulu community. Relying on the corpses of the dead and the food cultivated through Li Jian's devotion, ability, they have survived until now. And the price for obtaining the ice soul and awakening the ability is that all members join the snow worship cult. When the Dafaling came here, Li Jian immediately brought the residents of the whole building to greet him. I have seen the respected decree, Li Jian said excitedly. His eyes were full of reverence. Behind him, his wife and 16-year-old son looked at the ascetics of the snow worship cult with curious eyes. The last time this group of people came, they only had contact with Li Jian. After bestowing Li Jian's ice soul, they left in a hurry. At that time, this was still the territory of the Zishan base, and they didn't dare to stay for too long, and they had to sneak around to preach. But now that the 3 base forces have been wiped out, or those who have been hit, can only shrink back, the snow worship cult does not have to cover up for preaching. Dafaling looked at Li Jian, smiled gently and said, Li Jian, the ability bestowed on you by Snow God, it seems that you can use it very well. Li Jian bowed and said, praise the Snow God, praise the almighty leader. Thank you for allowing me to be blessed by the leader. Now we can survive. Dafaling nodded with a smile. His eyes passed over Li Jian and stayed on Li Jian's son Li Kaal for a moment before turning back. Now I have good news for you. You have obtained the permission of the leader and can follow us to Xianfeng district. You are now living with the leader and all the followers. Hearing the words of the Dafa decree, Li Jian and the others looked confused. Xianfeng district? Xianfeng district is not far from here, but everyone is used to living in Ulu district. Now that he can survive, he doesn't want to easily change his current living conditions. In the last days, everything is known as frightening. Dafaling laughed and said, don't be afraid. It's a paradise in the last days. All members of our snow worship cult are there, helping each other and building a home together. In the near future, it will become a utopia that will not be affected by the end of the world. You have been chosen and are entitled to live there. Dafaling looked at Li Jian with a smile in his eyes. And I mentioned you to the leader, Li Jian. She admires your ability very much and thinks your ability is indispensable for my snow worship sect. So as long as you go, you and your family will receive special care. Li Jian opened his mouth in surprise. He couldn't believe his ears. What an honor it is for a person like him to be personally named by the leader. Now, the entire 18 people yearn for snow worship cult very much, thinking that it is a holy place. After all, they have lived up to now, relying on the blessing of the leader to awaken Li Jian's abilities. So Li Jian immediately knelt down at the feet of Dafa in excitement. Praise the great snow god, praise the leader. I, Li Jian, am willing to contribute my modest strength to the snow worship sect. Dafaling was very satisfied with Li Jian's attitude. Get up, my child. Bring your family and daily necessities, and follow me to the snow worship cult's camp. A group of people happily packed up all the clothes and food. Then, more than 50 people who were still alive in one building followed the great decree to worship the snow sect with full expectation. It is a long way from Ulu district to the cathedral in Xianfeng district. Fortunately, they all have a beautiful fantasy about the future in their hearts, so they supported them to come here despite the wind and snow. The snow worship sect is now unprecedentedly prosperous, and more people have joined the sect. Priests maintained order, distribute food and clothing to newcomers, and teach them the teachings of snow worship. After Li Jian and others arrived here, they saw many people holding a red fruit in their hands and eating it. It was a fruit he had never seen before, bigger than an adult's fist, crystal clear, but exuding a strange blood red. But Li Jian didn't think much about it. At this point he and his family are immersed in the joy of joining Utopia. After everyone arrived, a nun immediately came to receive them. The Daffa decree said to Li Jian, "Li Jian, you come with me. The leader wants to see you in person." Li Jiancheng was terrified, but he did not forget his wife and children beside him. "Then my wife and son." Daffa Ling smiled and said, "Don't worry about this, they will naturally be taken care of." Only then did Li Jian feel relieved. Even his wife Zhang Jianfang encouraged, "It is an honor to be summoned by the leader in person. Go there, we will wait for you here." Li Jian nodded, and under the envious eyes of everyone around him, he followed the great decree and walked towards the huge church. As for the others, they were led elsewhere with a smile by the nun. Pushing open the door of the church, Li Jian looked inside with a pilgrimage. Although it was cloudy outside, the inside of the church seemed to be shrouded in a holy light. The light was dim, but the surrounding area of the altar was still bright. He saw a woman in a white monk's robe standing there with her back to him, with a pious expression on her face. But what is a little funny is that what she worships is Jesus Christ on the cross. Seeming to see his doubts, the Daffa Ling coughed and said, "God is everywhere and changes in countless ways. His image depends on the believer's heart. So don't pay attention to such details." Li Jian quickly said, "Yes, I understand." Of course he understands. This is St. John's Cathedral, the center of Xianhe Christian Church. The Snow Worship sect occupies this place as its headquarters, and has no time to create new idols. It can only say that Theosophy and Christianity come from the same clan. But Li Jian is a smart person, he will not expose these things. What he is grateful for is the kindness of Snow Worship sect, which does not mean that he believes in gods. But there are some things that you just need to know in your heart, and you don't need to say them out of your mouth. Chapter 422 means good harvest. Yuan Kangai prayed devoutly in front of the cross. As the leader of Snow Worship cult, she has an unprecedented obsession with gods. She believes in the existence of gods more than anyone else. Jesus Christ, Shakyamuni, Zeus, Yuan Shishianzan, Odin, are all just human imaginations of the creator. If there is no God, how to explain the miracle that happened to her? So she prays devoutly to the gods every day, and she herself is the most devout apostle. Snow in the sky, everything on the earth. Our bodies are born from the earth. Our souls come from heaven. The sun and the moon shine on our bodies. The pure snow washes our souls. Give this body to the cold wind that blows across the earth. Thank God for granting miracles to the land where the people of Snow God live. May our hearts be always in good health. I wish to share the joy with all my fellow man. May I share their grief with them. Please always praise the people of Snow Worship cult. Let us bear witness with our own soul and body. Yuan Kangai sang a distant prayer. Daffa Ling and Li Jian waited in the distance for the end of this sacred ceremony. After a long time, Yuan Kangai ended his prayer. She turned around slowly. Her cold eyes fell on Li Jian. The moment he saw Yuan Kangai, Li Jian was also a little surprised. The person who created the #1 sect in the last days turned out to be a girl who was only about 20 years old. He hurriedly lowered his head. "I have met the leader. I'm Li Jian, and I have been blessed by you to survive until now." Yuan Kangai walked towards Li Jian step by step. "I heard of you. The great decree tells me that you are the hope of all living beings, and you have been given the power to harvest by God." Yuan Kangai's voice has magical powers. After hearing this, Li Jian felt an uncontrollable urge to worship her. "Li Jian, raise your head." Li Jian raised his head in a strange way. He saw Yuan Kangai's eyes, and then felt that everything else in his sight disappeared. In the whole world, there is only Yuan Kangai's pair of eyes, which makes him feel admiration and emotion, unable to extricate himself. Every word Yuan Kangai said will be deeply imprinted in his mind. From now on, you are the priest of the Snow Worship cult. Your arrival means a good harvest. It is the gods who guided you here, and you also have your own mission to fulfill. Li Jian only felt that the blood in his whole body was boiling. He turned out to be the one chosen by the gods. He actually has a special mission. "I'm willing to give everything for Snow Worship cult." Li Jian shouted loudly. Yuan Kangai nodded in satisfaction. "Okay, follow me." After speaking, Yuan Kangai turned around and walked towards the back of the church. Li Jian didn't know what he was doing either. Only the figure of Yuan Kangai was in his eyes, and he knew that he had to follow that one. The two left the church and walked towards an abandoned building not far away. After Li Jian regained a little self-awareness, his eyes were already full of blood. He was standing inside the building. It was not so much a building as it looked like a deep valley. An extremely huge plant stood in front of it, with a thickness of 5 or 6 meters. It was covered with black bark, but it revealed a color redder than blood in the gaps. The trunk swells and contracts slightly from time to time, as if a person is breathing. The whole building is full of its branches and vines, and the leaves are curled up in a strange way, like a butterfly's cocoon, as if something is wrapped inside. Li Jian was dumbfounded. He had never seen such a strange and huge plant. Yuan Kangai stood in front of the plant and said to him, "This is the sacred tree of my snow cult. It can take root hundreds of meters deep underground to absorb nutrients and bear fruit. Its fruit is our most important food." As Yuan Kangai said, he slowly raised his hand. There was actually a vine hanging down from the tree trunk, and a red fruit fell off and landed in her palm. This plant seems to be intelligent. Only now did Li Jian understand where the red fruit he saw before came from. Yuan Kangai walked up to him and handed him the fruit. She smiled slightly. "This is our hope of living. Do you want to try it?" Li Jian nodded and took the fruit. Immediately, he smelled a magical fragrance, which he had never smelled in his life, which made him unable to control his body. Li Jian grabbed the fruit and swallowed it into his belly gulply, and a viscous liquid like blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. But after eating this fruit, he really felt that his body was full of strength, and the feeling of hunger and cold disappeared. Yuan Kangai said to Li Jian, "Father Li, your mission is to use your ability to cultivate this sacred tree. Let it grow stronger. Only in this way can we support more believers." Li Jian nodded vigorously. "Yes, I will follow your instructions, Your Excellency the leader." He walked up to the tree, took out a self-defense dagger from his body, and cut off his finger. It was just a shallow wound, but his blood fell like a stream of water. The holy tree greedily absorbed every drop of his blood, and the strange red light on the tree became more intense. Yuan Kangai didn't let him bleed all the time, but walked over and used the gifted ability to help him stop the bleeding. "From now on, you will feed the sacred tree with blood every day. This is your glorious mission." Li Jian nodded, and a noble look appeared in his eyes, as if this matter had really become the meaning of his life. Half a month passed in a flash. Zhang Yi's shelter has rebuilt the ice and snow defense line. As the days passed, no new enemies appeared, and everyone began to enjoy life. The food was plentiful, the temperature was pleasant, and the means of leisure and entertainment were not lacking, which made everyone very happy. However, Zhang Yi was prepared for danger in times of peace, but he did not forget what kind of environment he was in. He spent several hours every day learning Kung Fu with Liang Yu. Liang Yu is much more mature than before. She is a little less talkative, and she will teach Zhang Yi with a straight face during training. It's just that the two of them occasionally have some physical contact, and her face still turns red unconsciously. As for the outside world, it is much more exciting than here in the shelter. The power of the two bases, Zhaoyu and Yangsheng, has been greatly reduced. Not to mention, being unable to stop the missionary behavior of the snow worship cult, even some small armed forces in their territory have begun to emerge. On the surface, Qianhe City is controlled by the 5 major forces, but no one can completely control everyone within the sphere of influence. Many small underground armed groups still exist. As long as the forces above show signs of fatigue, they will try to take a bite irresistibly. After all, the best resource points in each region are all in the hands of big forces. As a last resort, the Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base had no choice but to resolve the turmoil in their own territory first. And the 5 major forces also reached a tacit agreement, recognizing their respective jurisdiction over the territory. No one wants to have another major conflict if it is not necessary. Chapter 423 Corpse. Zhang Yi's attitude of being prepared for danger made everyone in the shelter not dare to neglect. Uncle Yu practices boxing and shooting at home every day. Yang Mi has also been making supernatural food, and then let Zhang Yi store it in the supernatural space. Even Fatty Zhu, who is usually the laziest, had to be dragged by Zhang Yi to go out to practice his skills. Everyone's abilities are different. The abilities at the beginning may be relatively monotonous, but there is a lot of room for development later on. For example, Zhang Yi. He now has many skills derived from different spaces. And Zhang Yi is still expanding, trying to develop his spatial ability to the maximum. Fatty Zhu began to feel a sense of crisis. Especially during the Battle of the Five Armies, he saw the fighting style of Wei Dinghe, who had a stronger ice and snow ability, Ice Lord, than him. He desperately hopes to improve his strength so as not to hinder the shelter. After all, Zhang Yi is not a kind person who can raise disabled people. There was one more thing that made Fatty Zhu feel uneasy the most. That was after he learned that Liang Yu also had the ability to devour others. In the past, only Zhang Yi and Huahe had such power in the shelter. Neither he nor Uncle Yu had it, and they didn't think there was anything unusual about it. Now there is one more Liang Yu who also has this ability. In other words, the talents among the aliens are also divided into high and low, and he and Uncle Yu are the lower ones. So Fatty Zhu practiced desperately, wanting to improve his combat effectiveness. But no matter how he practiced, the effect he achieved was not very great. His methods are nothing more than ice thorns, ice walls, and snowstorm impacts. If the field control also interferes, the effect is really good. But for aliens, it is difficult to cause too much damage. If it was a one-on-one fight, he couldn't imagine who he could beat. Oh, I can't go on like this. Otherwise, every time I fight, I'll be cramping. Zhang Yi saw Fatty Zhu working hard, so he walked over and told him about his experience in exercising. Ability is the more you use it, the more proficient it becomes, and the more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. But the most important thing is to have brains. He pointed to his head. If we regard abilities as weapons, in addition to increasing the strength of the weapon, we must also have the mind to control the weapon. A pebble thrown by an expert is more powerful than a shuriken thrown by an ordinary person. Zhang Yi's explanation made Fatty Zhu suddenly realize, I'm too obsessed with the strength of my ability. But when the boss killed Ling Feng, he didn't rely on the strength of his ability, but intelligence and brains. I can't devour the abilities of other aliens, so the upper limit is limited. But if I can develop my ability to the maximum extent, it may not be strong enough. After the change of mind, Fatty Zhu's vision suddenly opened up. In the blink of an eye, it's March. It was supposed to be the season when all things recover, but the weather is still cold. It's just that, because the blue star is slowly approaching the perihelion, the temperature has picked up. However, this insignificant recovery cannot make people ignore the cold outside. Zhang Yi and Fatty Zhu have cleared countless 3A masterpieces with hell difficulty. The Majin table at home has also been repaired several times due to overwork. Fortunately, with Lu Karen, a mechanical expert, this problem can be easily solved. Everything looks so harmonious, as if the days will go by so silently for a long time. But the most interesting part of life is that you never know which one will come first. Surprise or surprise. The ruins of the Zishan base. It is impossible for any living people to exist in the old soil that has been covered in dust for a long time. The materials inside were also looted by Zhang Yi. After the Battle of the Five Armies, no other forces dared to approach and search, so it became a place of death. But on this day, the thick dark green iron door of the Fourth Life warehouse suddenly shook violently. It seems that there is some huge and mysterious force shaking it. With just a few dull and fierce collisions, the heavy door bolt was directly broken. In the dark space, streaks of dark green light lit up, and at the same time, emitted a disgusting smell of decay. From the gate, a group of tattered corpses with dull eyes slowly poured out. It was like opening a can of herring that was years out of date. Zombies appeared densely and quickly filled the entire passage. As if they had been inspired by something, they slowly walked towards the exit of the Zishan base. It didn't take long for them to clear the entrance filled with debris. The wind and snow outside were very heavy, and zombies came out from the base of the Zishan base densely, thousands of them in a mighty manner, walking towards the southeast. At this time, Zhang Yi was sitting on the sofa in the shelter, drinking coffee and chatting with Yang Xingxin. With a computer on her lap, Yang Xingxin slowly reported to Zhang Yi the current situation of the other four factions. That's right, in the past month or so, she has hacked into the networks of these forces. He quietly lurked and watched their movements. Unlike Zishan base, their network security level is even lower, even only the level of domestic small and medium-sized companies in the past. Among them, King Pooh Base and Snow Worship Sect have the lowest level, and they don't even have personnel dedicated to maintaining network security. The means of communication is to rely on mobile phones and satellite phones. Facing these laymen, it was a breeze for Yang Xingxin to hack into their network. It's just that there is no way to completely break through the intranet used in the core network areas of Chaoyu Base and Yangsheng Base. But even so, it was enough for Zhang Yi to know their current movements. According to the current situation, the King Pooh Base still chooses to be safe and secure. They have no intention of aggression, and they enjoy the current sight. After Chaoyu Base lost the Battle of the Five Armies, the leader Wei Dinghe was seriously injured, so he was the most conservative, and kept shrinking the defense line. It even caused other armed forces in the territory to take the lead. The dominance of the Yangsheng Base is still stable, and it has strongly suppressed several waves of rebellion in the territory. As for the Snow Worship cult, this faction can be said to be the biggest beneficiary of that war. Their membership is increasing rapidly, possibly reaching the level of tens of thousands of followers. Zhang Yi leaned on the sofa and sat cross-legged. He was wearing pure cotton pajamas, listening to Yang Xingxin's report lazily. All the circumstances are not too big of a surprise. It was just the last one about Snow Worship cult that made him very curious. They are frantically recruiting congregants. What exactly do they rely on to support them? Among the general congregation, there are old and young, men and women. Not everyone can become a useful soldier or labor force. A large number of people is not necessarily useful, and it may become a burden. Even several other Al-Qaeda organizations need to maintain their population when they have sufficient supplies. Zhang Yi frowned slightly, not understanding the significance of this approach. Could it be that Yuan Kang Guy really regards himself as the savior? Yang Xingxin looked at Zhang Yi and said lightly, actually, there is another possibility. Huh? Tell me carefully. Zhang Yi rested his cheeks with a curious look on his face. Yang Xingxin calmly explained, now is the end of the world, and it is even more difficult than the troubled times. It is often such a time that the order of the world will undergo tremendous changes. Brother Zhang Yi, you don't have any ambitions. You just want to live a stable life. But it doesn't mean that other powerful people think the same way. Yang Xingxin paused, and then said, Brother Zhang Yi, you should know about the taping Heavenly Kingdom, right? Zhang Yi nodded. Of course I know this. After all, there was such a big commotion back then. Yang Xingxin said with a smile, the original taping Heavenly Kingdom, under the guise of a ridiculous god-worshipping religion, was able to separate half of the country and establish a Heavenly Kingdom for more than 10 years. It is nothing more than taking advantage of the chaos of that era and the suffering of the people. The Snow Worship cult may have the same idea. In this way, they can quickly become the largest force in Xianhe City without even using force. Wait until their congregation is large enough, and their teachings spread widely enough. At that time, even the 3 major bases, or some of us may be assimilated. In the end, Yang Xingxin concluded, in other words, someone in the Snow Worship cult wants to become a god. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes, and said with a disapproving smile, this idea sounds a little funny. Yang Xingxin said to him seriously, believe me, brother, this matter is definitely not a joke. People will try to seize every opportunity to survive in a desperate situation. Even if the residents of Xianhe City have a relatively high education level, they will obediently offer their knees in the face of life and death. Zhang Yi smiled lightly. He put his hand in and looked out the window and said disapprovingly, I admit the truth you said, but the times have changed. Just relying on the number of people cannot rule everything. Even if they really have more than one congregants, they still cannot gain an absolute advantage in front of other major forces with modern armed forces. Yang Xingxin tilted her head and asked back, so, what if they use Yuan Khan Gai's blessing, ability to awaken a large number of aliens? Zhang Yi frowned slightly. This question is worth thinking about for a while. But soon, he still gave his own answer. Inhumans are just stronger humans. There is no need to overdo it. And I have seen a lot of aliens, and there are very few who are truly powerful enough to be afraid of. Zhang Yi said it calmly. But Yang Xingxin looked at him with an adoring smile and said, brother, the reason why you say that is because you are already very powerful now. Zhang Yi has the ability to devour together, and has devoured many powerful aliens one after another, including Ling Feng, the #1 fighter in Zishan base. At this time, no one dared to make a conclusion about how strong Zhang Yi's abilities were. But Zhang Yi himself is clear. During the last battle of the 5 armies, he who was not driven to a desperate situation didn't even display half of his strength. Worship the snow cult. Zhang Yi patted his thigh and whispered the name, looking out of the window quietly. Be careful with this sect. While talking, suddenly, Zhang Yi's eyes froze. In the snowstorm, outside the shelter, many figures appeared indistinctly from the end of the horizon, slowly walking towards here. Chapter 424 Erosion. Looking at the scene in front of him, Zhang Yi was stunned for a second, and for a moment he felt that he was dazzled. Because in such a cold external environment, how could so many people appear at the same time? As far as the eye can see, there are people everywhere. Even in the last battle of the 5 armies, there were not so many soldiers assembled here. But when he looked over carefully, he realized that it was not his illusion. It's really a large number of shadowy people moving this way. Zhang Yi suddenly jumped up from the sofa and shouted, "ZOAI, inform everyone in the shelter to gather in the living room immediately and put on your equipment." While talking, Zhang Yi took off his pajamas and quickly put on his combat uniform. ZOAI immediately sounded the alarm to warn everyone in the shelter. Although everyone was used to ease, after hearing the alarm, they immediately changed their clothes according to Zhang Yi's instructions and rushed to the living room in unison. Yang Xingxin was a little surprised. "Brother, what's wrong?" Zhang Yi put on his combat uniform, held a golden sand eagle in his hand, and stared out the window. "Look carefully outside. Is there something there?" Yang Xingxin controlled the wheelchair and leaned towards the window. She squinted her eyes and looked carefully, and finally noticed the dense and shadowy human heads in the direction of the horizon. Yang Xingxin's face suddenly turned pale. Why are there so many people? Could it be that several other forces joined forces to attack? Everyone rushed to the living room one after another. Uncle Yu came over and asked, "Zhang Yi, what's the situation? Is there an enemy attack?" Zhang Yi picked up the binoculars and looked over there. This look sent a chill down his spine. The shadowy figure was not a person, but a large group of corpses walking slowly towards this side. The clothes on their bodies were thin and shabby, their bodies were covered with bluish purple corpse spots, and some of their faces showed signs of ulceration. However, due to the protection of the extremely cold temperature, they did not completely rot into skeletons. Zombies really appeared. Zhang Yi took a breath and muttered to himself. Everyone was taken aback and then hurried over to watch with binoculars. In the camera, the zombies crawling slowly towards the shelter are unmistakable. They are indeed all corpses. Suddenly, Liang Yu said unexpectedly, "These corpses couldn't all have crawled out from the Zishan base?" Zhang Yi was a little surprised. "How did you find out?" Liang Yu came to Zhang Yi and pointed it out to him. "Look carefully, there are some zombies inside that are still wearing the clothes of soldiers from the Zishan base." Following the direction Liang Yu pointed out, Zhang Yi looked over. Sure enough, if you look carefully, you can really see some zombies wearing that standard military uniform. They should all be from the Zishan base, especially the civilians in the 4th Life warehouse. Liang Yu said in a deep voice. Zhang Yi put down the telescope in his hand. Surprised, his heart gradually calmed down. It's weird, isn't it? Even in such a cold ice age, the corpse is not frozen and can still move. Zhao Kena calmly explained. It may be that some kind of virus has been released. Zhang Yi nodded. Fortunately, it's just some corpses. It looks a little scary, but it's just the same thing as a carrier parasitized by the virus. He put his helmet on and then took out a rifle from a different space and carried it on his shoulders. Let's go, and kill these guys who are not safe to die. Remember to hit the zombies to be effective. Everyone came to their senses and suddenly realized, yes, they are just mere zombies. There is no need to be afraid. Not to mention that their fighting power is fierce and all kinds of weapons are well equipped. Let's just talk about Zhang Yi and the others. Killing some zombies is as easy as chopping melons and vegetables. Where is there any danger? It's just a game of fighting zombies. Even Luke Karen couldn't help but ran over and acted like a baby to Zhang Yi. "Brother, give me a gun. Let me shoot it twice." Zhang Yi thought for a while, then handed her a rifle. "You stay by my side obediently. And be steady when you shoot. Don't accidentally injure friendly troops." "Yeah. This is really tight cool." Luke Karen excitedly changed into a combat uniform, then went out with Zhang Yi and the others holding the gun. As for Huata, Zhang Yi just let him stay at home. "The main reason is that I'm afraid that it will eat indiscriminately and its stomach will be ruined." Zhao Ke and the others were still a little scared of zombies, for fear of splashing their own blood, so they didn't follow them out. Everyone moved a small bench and prepared to watch Zhang Yi and the others fight zombies while eating melon seeds. Zhang Yi and the others went out with relaxed expressions on their faces. Recently, they have been practicing hard, but they have no way to test their practice results. This time is just right. I can find some live targets to vent my anger on. Uncle Yu directly turned into a giant, picking up a huge engineering shovel, and was about to rush over. Zhang Yi shouted, "Uncle Yu, it's more straightforward to use a gun." Uncle Yu laughed loudly and said, "It's no longer necessary. Let's save some bullets." Liang Yu also had fighting intent in his eyes, drew out the tang saber and rushed over. The three more stable people were behind, choosing to use guns to kill. Zhang Yi is steady, while Fatty Zhu and Luke Karen are purely practicing marksmanship. Zhang Yi raised his hand and shot it with a single shot. He didn't have any supernatural powers attached and only used the ability of precise shooting. Immediately, a zombie was hit in the head and fell down. Seeing this, Luke Karen and Fatty Zhu quickly raised their guns. Luke Karen smiled happily. "Brother Zhu, how about we compare who kills more zombies?" Fatty Zhu chuckled. "Then I must have one. I touched the gun a month earlier than you." The two raised their guns and fired. But suddenly, Zhang Yi noticed something was wrong. The zombie who had been shot in the head by him slowly got up again. Because it was frozen too hard, didn't it penetrate? Impossible. Even if it is a zombie, it is a flesh and blood body after all, and it is impossible that even a bullet cannot penetrate it. When Zhang Yi's Heng was wondering, the zombie stood up. There was a deep black hole in his head, but no blood flowed out. It looked in the direction of the shelter when Uncle Yu and Liang Yu rushed over quickly. At this moment, the group of zombies, which seemed dull and numb, suddenly experienced a huge change. Ow! They let out a piercing howl from their throats, very much like wild dogs that grew up eating dead human flesh in mass graves. In the next instant, thousands of zombies on the snowfield uttered the same roar and launched a frantic charge towards Liang Yu and Uncle Yu. The original lag disappeared, and their running speed was even comparable to that of hounds. There seemed to be countless ants crawling in the scholar eyes, which was extremely penetrating. Chapter 425 Weird. No one expected that those seemingly dull and numb zombies would suddenly change. They exploded at an astonishing speed one by one, and surrounded Uncle Yu and Liang Yu in an instant. Zhang Yi didn't even react. These zombies had already submerged the two of them, 3 floors inside and 3 floors outside. The roaring sound made people's bones tremble. "Fuck." Uncle Yu's frightened and angry voice came, and with a wave of the engineer shovel in his hand, he swept away more than a dozen zombies, and even cut off 3 zombies at the waist. These zombies are already stiff, their bodies are extremely hard, and they are not easily destroyed like those rotting zombies on TV. Fortunately, both Uncle Yu and Liang Yu are aliens of the reinforcement system, and their melee combat abilities are very strong. Even if they are surrounded by thousands of zombies, they can still fight back effectively. Liang Yu held the tang saber in his hand, and the light of the saber streaked across the air like the cold moonlight. The zombie's body, which was comparable to steel, was cut off cleanly. But the efficiency of this kind of killing is too low, and the number of zombies is too much. If this continues, once they run out of energy, they will definitely be eaten alive by zombies. No one expected this kind of development. Until a few seconds ago, Zhang Yi's impression of zombies was still in the TV series. The kind of zombies that move slowly, whose body is as fragile as mud, even a child can kill with a branch, is obviously completely different from what they have encountered so far. They are stronger, fiercer, faster and harder to kill. How to kill a thing that won't die, even if its head is shot? Looking at the broken corpses on the ground, Zhang Yi was still struggling to crawl towards Uncle Yu and Liang Yu, and his scalp began to tingle. What kind of ghost is this? Why can't it be killed? Fatty Zhu and Luke Karen also turned pale with fright, and quickly shot to kill a few more zombies and rescue Uncle Yu and Liang Yu. But instead of killing those zombies, this approach attracted their attention. The huge group of corpses separated into a wave, roaring at the three of Zhang Yi, and rushing towards them. Zhang Yi didn't change his face. Since headshots can't kill these zombies, guns are useless. He put away the pistol, and drew a quadrilateral in the air with both hands. A huge gate of dimension stood in front of the three of them. The impact speed of that group of zombies was extremely fast. If they were placed in the past, they would probably be at the level of sprint champions. But they didn't get close to Zhang Yi, and they entered the gate of the dimension one by one. Fatty Zhu and Luke Karen breathed a sigh of relief. Great. Fortunately there is a boss dimensional gate. Use this to clean up all these mindless zombies. But as soon as Fatty Zhu finished speaking, the zombie who was still rushing forward suddenly stopped in front of the gate of dimension. Okay. Zhang Yi frowned, realizing that things were not simple. Zombies are all mutations of dead bodies, so they shouldn't have wisdom. But it is completely illogical for them to be able to detect danger and stop. There are only two possibilities. First, they are not dead things, but another creature with intelligence. Second, someone is secretly manipulating these zombies. Obviously, the second possibility is the most likely. Could it be that there are aliens who can manipulate zombies? Just like the previous time, the corpses of soldiers disappeared for no reason. If that's the case, then everything makes sense. That being the case, as long as the controller among the corpses is killed, the crisis can be resolved. However, seeing thousands of zombies densely packed in front of him, Zhang Yi couldn't help but have a headache. Let him find the controller from so many zombies. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Therefore, Zhang Yi decided to use a more relaxed method to deal with this matter. With a move of his right hand, a heavy tank suddenly appeared on the snowy ground, denting the snow surface. Uncle Yu, Liang Yu, listen to my password. When the count reaches 3, you all try your best to jump into the sky. While Zhang Yi was talking, he got into the tank and started loading shells at the same time. This thing made him difficult to drive, but he had asked Uncle Yu for advice on how to fire the cannon. Uncle Yu and Liang Yu immediately understood what Zhang Yi was going to do. It is good. Zhang Yi loaded the cannonball and started counting down. 3, 2, 1. Just after counting 1, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu had already fought off all the zombies around them and then jumped into the sky with all their strength. Both of them are strangers of the enhancement system, and their physical fitness is very strong. They jumped about 10 meters high with all their strength, and the muzzle of that tank also made a deafening roar. Boom. A cannonball exploded among the corpses, instantly like a flower blooming in the center, blasting hundreds of zombies out, and the stumps and limbs flew across. The corpses were blown apart, and Liang Yu and Uncle Yu got a chance to breathe, and quickly retreated towards the shelter. The group of corpses pursued closely. Their speed was too terrifying, and they were about to rush forward. But out of the instinct to prey on living creatures, they gathered together, just in front of the muzzle. Zhang Yi loaded the cannonball, and fired it out again. This cannon blasted away hundreds of zombies again. However, many remaining zombies still rushed over from the side. Luke Karen's legs were so frightened that his legs went limp. Fortunately, Liang Yu and Uncle Yu stood in front and cleaned up all these fragmentary zombies. Just beheading them doesn't stop them from moving. So the two also figured out the way, either directly destroying the torso or cutting off their legs. Zhang Yi opened the door of the tank and walked out. He silently took out a strangely shaped piece of equipment from the different space, 2 large metal tanks, connected to the long tube in front with a pipe. It looks very much like a machine used to spray pesticides. This thing is called a flamethrower, and Zhang Yi has never used it since he seized it from the Zishan base. Because this thing has a relatively short range and is a bit troublesome to memorize. But in the face of these unkillable zombies, it is very useful. Zhang Yi lay on the ground, fixed the flamethrower, and then a fire dragon more than 10 meters long sprayed out. Even at such a cold temperature, the temperature of the flamethrower made these zombies feel hot. The clothes on them were ignited, and their bodies were blazing. Since they are all clustered together, this flame burning effect is also very outstanding. At first, Zhang Yi was a little worried that these zombies would pounce on them after they were set on fire. But I didn't expect that when they caught fire, they seemed a little out of control, and their limbs were twisting crazily. There was a strange howl from their throats, and the crackling on their bodies made a sound like boiling lard. Just when everyone was going to go all out to fight, those zombies turned their heads and ran away. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.